Chapter 241. As soon as Arbor entered the main hall, he paused in his steps. As it turned out, City Lord Gu and Mr. Zhang were also present. They were talking to their parents and second uncle. Elderly Lady Qiao was sitting at the side, her eyes red as though she had just cried. Sun Yang consoled her from the side. Elderly Lady Qiao wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief and sighed. Rowan was truly a poor child. I didn't expect something like this to happen yesterday. Her death was truly too unjust. City Lord Gu's eyes brightened when he saw Arbor enter. He hastily walked up and politely greeted the child. Miss Qiao, were you frightened by yesterday's incident? Arbor naturally pretended to be hesitant and nodded. City Lord Gu came to deliver one Rowan's ashes. After cremating her, he should at least leave some ashes for her family as a memento. City Lord Gu was shocked when he found out Rowan's identity last night. He was still on tenterhooks when he came to visit, afraid that the little girl would angrily rebuke him. However, it seemed that this Miss One did not have much status in this family. After all, she was an outsider and was only slightly related to elderly Lady Qiao. Although Qiao Zhongbong and his wife sighed, they were not sad. They calmly received the news of her death. After all, they had only interacted with Rowan for a few days. Qiao Zhongbong felt that this Miss One had a lot of thoughts. When City Lord Gu and Mr. Zhang went out, they coincidentally saw the Crown Prince enter the Qiao residence. City Lord Gu hastily said to Mr. Zhang, "Has Miss Qiao's reward from the previous mission been delivered?" "It has." "Don't worry, sir." Then hurry up and send some things over. Just say it's supplementary reward. His Highness the Crown Prince eats, lives, and comes to the Qiao residence every day, right? We can't let a little girl spend money to feed His Highness, right? That's not good. His Highness was a bit shameless. Mr. Zhang was dumbfounded. What the hell was Sir Gu thinking? You're saying His Highness is a freeloader behind his back. How much do you want to die? Oh, little Imo is here. Wei Ziqin smiled happily when she saw Imo Lien. She hurriedly invited him in and sat down. Jojo just woke up. Let's have lunch early. Jojo must be hungry too. Auntie, you don't have to work so hard. Just eat something. Prince Imo, who used to have "I'm hard to please" written all over his body, responded with a smile and put on a face that said, "I only need a bowl of rice to satisfy you." Arbor stealthily shot a murderous glare at this guy. He couldn't help but raise his chin at him, indicating for him to scram. This damned fellow. He came to their house every day and was especially familiar with his father and second uncle. Where did these three men get so much nonsense from? A certain crown prince was well-read and intelligent. As long as he was willing, he could really talk about any topic. Whether it was martial arts techniques or military affairs, he could talk about anything. Therefore, father and second uncle were really chatting with the crown prince. The more they chatted, the happier they were. They kept praising young Master Imo, saying that he was knowledgeable and had exceptional talent. They were really putting all the good things they had on him. In just 2 or 3 days, he took in her entire family. Even the little foodie would say, "Big brother," this time every time she saw the crown prince. Darling Qiao was really infuriated. This group of people with no moral integrity had all changed sides in a moment of inexplicable carelessness. "Come out." Arbor gave a certain crown prince a murderous look. Wei Ziqin hurriedly went up to pat Xiao Mu's head. She looked at her daughter in complaint. "What are you saying, child? Don't be fierce to little Imo." Chapter 242. Yes, don't yell at me. Crown Prince nodded repeatedly, his almond-shaped eyes sweeping over the child as he chuckled. How infuriating. Mother wasn't even Jojo's biological mother anymore. Ahem. Madame Qiao coughed lightly, trying to attract Arbor's attention. "Jojo, I heard that grandmother's body hasn't been well these past 2 days?" Arbor turned his head and replied coldly, "Sunyang, why aren't you helping grandmother back to her room to rest?" Madame Qiao was so angry that she pursed her lips. She hadn't even finished speaking. Judging from the little girl's string of words, she probably didn't want to see her at all. Madame Qiao hurriedly sat up straight and rushed to say, "Jojo, do you have any good medicine on you? Grandmother's hand accidentally bled this morning. If you have any good medicine, lend it to grandmother to apply it." Madame Chow forced a smile at the little girl. She rolled up her right sleeve, revealing a red, glistening wound on the back of her hand. Mother, where did you get hurt? Xiao Zhongbong jumped up. He was close and saw that the wound was quite long and deep. Xiao Zhongbong's heart ached for his mother, and he couldn't help but complain. Sunyang, how are you taking care of Madame Chow? How did you let Madame Chow get hurt like this? Sunyang was also shocked. She hurriedly shook her head and said, Master, this old servant really doesn't know when Madame Chow hurt her hand. Arbor and Crown Prince approached one after another, looking down to examine the wound carefully. When she raised her head, Xiao Mu tugged the corner of her mouth at elderly Lady Chow and tossed her a cold, thought-provoking smile. Madame Chow froze for a moment, her heart skipping a beat. However, her old face quickly calmed down, and she continued to look at Arbor innocently. Jojo, do you have any good medicine? Yes, I have all kinds of medicine. Arbor's smile becomes more and more interesting. She takes out a small box of high-quality ointment from her waist. It's the leftover ointment that Emol Yoshi used to scratch her. Grandmother, let your granddaughter apply it to your wound. Granddaughter can show her filial piety, Arbor said softly with a smile. The old lady felt goosebumps all over her body. She was really not used to the little guy speaking so politely to her. There's no need. I'll go back to my room and apply it myself. Madame Chow snatched the ointment from Arbor's hand and hurriedly stuffed it into her pocket. She got up and said that she had a headache and wanted to go back to her room to rest. Then, she fled without looking back. Xiaoyao, you stay here with mother and sister. Father, second uncle, come with me. As soon as the old lady left, Arbor's little face turned cold. Second uncle and Father Chow looked at each other, their hearts sinking. The old lady took the medicine and hurried back to the house. As soon as she entered the house, she was disgusted by the rotten smell. She endured the discomfort and hurriedly pushed open the door to the small room. She called out softly, Wanner, quickly come and apply the medicine. Mother got the ointment. A woman with long, withered, and disheveled hair suddenly turned around. There were dark circles under her eyes. Xiao Wenwan snatched the ointment from the old lady's hand and complained anxiously, Why were you gone for so long? Ever since the day she was scratched by the zombie, her wound had never healed. It was even worse these 2 days. It actually started to fester and rot, and she even saw a small piece of rotten flesh fall off her arm. No matter what ointment she applied, it didn't help. She remembered that her niece had a lot of high-quality ointment on her, so she took the risk to sneak into the Chow family in the middle of the night to ask her mother for help. Chapter 243. Wanner, it's not like you don't know that your niece is more cunning than a ghost. If she knew that you snuck home, she would definitely chase you and even me out of the house without mercy, old Madame Chow said with lingering fear. Wanner, Mom will help you apply it. Old Madame Chow looked at the wound on her daughter's arm worriedly, and tears streamed down her face. The wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. How could it not hurt? Xiao Wenwan felt that the ointment did have a cooling and anti-swelling effect when applied on her arm, but there was too little ointment. Mom, go get some more from the little bitch. This little isn't enough. Bam! Xiao Mu violently kicked open the door with a loud bang. The mother and daughter in the room jumped in shock, and the ointment in their hands almost fell to the ground. Old Madame Chow glared at Arbor and stood up agitatedly. Why did you barge in? Dad, second uncle, she mutated. She's no longer human. Arbor took out a crossbow and aimed it at Xiao Wenwan with an icy expression. From the looks of it, this woman's incubation period was about to end. In 1 or 2 days, she would completely mutate into a zombie. Old Madame Chow hit her in the room. That was a disregard for her own life and the lives of her entire family. Mom, Xiao Zhongbong stared at his mother, dumbfounded. He was so angry that he didn't know what to say. This muddle-headed mother. No wonder she had been hiding in the room since yesterday. So she had secretly hidden Wenwan in the room. Old Madame Chow cried. Eldest brother, second brother, the person standing in front of you is your biological sister. You can't treat her like this. Arbor shot an arrow, but it didn't hit Xiao Wenwan. Instead, It was nailed to the cupboard door. Because Qiao Wenjuan's dodging speed was quite fast, Qiao Mu couldn't help but be taken aback by this strange speed. Qiao Zhongbong broke out in a cold sweat as he watched. He dragged his panic-stricken mother over and yelled impatiently, "Old mother, did Qiao Wenwan scratch your hand?" "She wasn't caught," Arbor said coldly. "Her wound is deep, shallow, and crooked. It's obvious that the pain was unbearable when she cut herself open." Madame Qiao was really desperate for Qiao Wenwan. She didn't even hesitate to cut her own hand to get Arbor's ointment. "Mother, Wenwan has mutated. Listen to me. She really can't stay here. Otherwise, it will harm our entire family." Second Uncle Qiao also advised. "Second brother, are you still human? How dare you say such things? She's your sister." Madame Qiao angrily slapped her son. Qiao Wenwan hid beside the cupboard and looked at them with a grimace. Suddenly, she shouted, "You're the mutated ones. You are the ones who deserve to die. Since no one wants to make things easy for me, I'll make you all die with me." With that, he pounced forward and grabbed the back of Old Lady Qiao's head with both hands. Old Lady Qiao was stunned. She didn't expect her daughter to attack her again. Seeing that Qiao Wenjuan's claws were less than an inch away from the back of the old lady's head, a spark suddenly exploded on her hand, causing her to immediately let out a miserable howl. She fell backwards, and the two bones in her hand were exposed outside the skin. Old Lady Qiao's lips trembled as she turned back to look at her daughter in shock. There wasn't a trace of blood between her broken hands. She really wasn't alive. What a sin. Old Lady Qiao was overcome with grief, and tears streamed down her face. She couldn't accept the fact that her flower-like daughter had turned into a zombie no matter what. Chapter 244. No, don't kill her. She's innocent, and she didn't want to end up like this. She was harmed by someone else. Elderly Lady Qiao pulled her son to her knees. "Let her go. Let your sister go." "Mom, your son can't agree to this. Sister isn't human anymore. You can't let her go out and harm people." Qiao Zhongbong wasn't ambiguous about this matter at all. Slap. Elderly Lady Qiao slapped her son's face, her wrinkled old hand trembling non-stop in midair. She pointed at Qiao Zhongbong and angrily roared, "Unfilial son." Qiao Zhongbong's left cheek immediately turned red and swollen. It was clear how much strength the elderly lady had used to slap him. "Mom, have you gone senile?" Second Uncle Qiao stomped his feet in anger. He pulled over his eldest brother, who was standing foolishly in front of his mother, and used his body to shield his angry mother as he roared, "Qiao Wenwan is already dead. Eldest brother is also very sad, and I'm also very sad. But what can we do? We can't bring Qiao Wenwan back from the dead. We can't let her harm you, Mom. She'll harm the whole family." The elderly lady pointed at the two brothers with a trembling finger. Her tears flowed endlessly, and she couldn't stop the grief in her heart. Her daughter, the daughter that she had raised lovingly and lovingly. Arbor rudely grabbed the elderly lady's arm and forcefully pushed her back. He sternly said, "Sun Yang, send the elderly lady to the west wing to rest. Don't come out if there's nothing else." Sun Yang's hands trembled slightly, and she hurriedly caught the elderly lady's tilted body. Half dragging and half pulling, she supported the shrieking elderly lady out the door. Qiao Wenwan crawled up from the ground. Her head was crooked abnormally, and her bulging eyes stared intently at Arbor. Suddenly, she roared and pounced at him. Bang! Bang, bang, bang. The Crown Prince merely lifted his finger slightly, and several fire orbs were sent to Qiao Wenjuan's side, where they exploded with a bang. Qiao Wenjuan's face was blown beyond recognition. She couldn't even get close to Arbor. Qiao Zhongbong looked at Qiao Wenjuan's miserable state with a gloomy face, his fists tightly clenched together. Roar! Roar! Qiao Wenwan lay on the ground and let out an inhuman roar. The roar spread to the front hall and startled Wei Ziqin, who couldn't sit still. She hurriedly held Xiao Er's hand and stood up. Xiao Yao hurriedly stopped the two of them and said, "Madam, it's better not to go over." Although she didn't know what happened to old Madam, Xiao Yao could guess that something big must have happened when she heard the commotion and saw Mrs. Expression before she left. Madam was pregnant, and it was inconvenient for her to move around. It was best not to join in the fun to avoid any accidents. However, how could Wei Ziqin sit still? She grabbed Xiao Yao's hand and said, "Don't worry, I won't go near. I'll just take a look from afar." With that said, she walked towards old Madam's room. As expected, she didn't go near. She just stood at the end of the corridor far away and looked at old Madam's wide-open room door. Suddenly, a zombie with disheveled hair rushed out of the door. Her daughter also rushed out of the room with a crossbow. She had just aimed at the zombie's head when the crossbow in her little hand was snatched away by her husband with a smack. "Dad?" Arbor's little face darkened, and she looked up at Xiao Zhongbang. At a time like this, could it be that Dad wants to be heartless, soft, right? Our dear Xiaomu looked at her father with disappointment. When Xiao Zhongbang saw that small gaze, it felt like the father and daughter's positions were reversed. His daughter looked like she was looking at some good-for-nothing child. The melancholy and disappointment in her gaze was simply brilliant. Chapter 245. Jojo, don't do it yourself, let Dad do it. However, Xiao Zhongbang, with a dark expression, suddenly raised the crossbow in his hand and shot an arrow at the head of Xiao Wenwan, who was running away screaming. He was so swift and decisive that he didn't seem like her indecisive, good-for-nothing father at all. Whoosh. The arrow immediately pierced Xiao Wenjuan's head and pulled her forward a few steps before she fell to the ground with a plop. Arbor's eyes curved slightly as he secretly glanced at his father. His father probably didn't want him to deal with this little ant, right? He was using his own method to protect his daughter. If this crime of killing his wife had to be shouldered by someone, then he, Xiao Zhongbang, would be the one to shoulder it. Even if Mom wasn't willing to forgive him for the rest of her life, even if Mom blamed him for the rest of his life, Xiao Zhongbang reached out to stop Arbor as he ran forward with the crossbow and kicked Xiao Wenjuan's leg twice. Seeing that she didn't move, he finally sighed in relief. Second uncle went forward to check again before saying to Arbor and Xiao Zhongbang, "This is a serious matter. I don't know if Xiao Wenwan injured anyone when she snuck into the city. I'll go to the city lord's manor to report and have the city lord send someone to clean up this corpse." Arbor nodded in agreement. "Second uncle is right. Thank you for making this trip, second uncle." Second uncle hurriedly waved his hand and hurriedly left. Wei Ziqin, who was standing in the corridor with her heart on edge, took a deep breath and hurriedly walked over to the father and daughter. "Jojo, Zhongbang, what's going on? Why did a zombie run out of this house? Are you guys okay?" Xiao Zhongbang smiled bitterly at his wife. Xiao Wenwan fell to the ground, and her face was a mess from the fire spirit's explosion. Wei Ziqin naturally didn't recognize who this person was. "Let's talk in the front yard." When Wei Ziqin found out that the corpse puppet just now was actually a mutated Xiao Wenwan, she couldn't help but be shocked. Wei Ziqin looked at her husband worriedly and asked, "Mom?" Xiao Zhongbang smiled bitterly and waved his hand. "Let her be." Soon, second uncle and city lord Gu rushed over with a team of people from the corpse disposal team and swiftly carried Xiao Wenwan away. Wei Ziqin stood up and looked at Imo Lian. "Little Imo, you must be hungry. I'm sorry that something like this happened at home." "It's all right, Auntie. No one wants this kind of thing to happen. You should persuade Uncle to console him. I think Uncle's mood won't be too good for the next 2 days." A certain crown prince walked past Xiao Mu and suddenly winked at her. "Good child, you're so considerate." Wei Ziqin smiled as she looked at the young man. The more she looked at him, the more she liked him. Arbor reached out a small hand at her mother's back. "I'm so angry. Mom, I'm your biological daughter, okay? I'm the poor child who hasn't eaten a single grain of rice since I was born." Bam! Arbor sat down on the stool in a huff. A figure suddenly appeared next to the child, and before she could react, her small body was lifted high into the air. "Jojo, you must be tired. I'll carry you to the dining room." Prince Imo walked gracefully with the child in his arms and received the praising gazes of "good young man" from Xiao Mu and Xiao Mu. "Let's go wash our hands and eat." "Wash your sister's hands. I'm not a child." "Put me down, you jerk." Prince Imo secretly chuckled, but he hadn't taken 2 steps when he heard Duan Yu's voice from the door. "Jojo, is Jojo home? Prince Imo turned around with Miss Chiao in his arms and shot a murderous look at Duanyu, who was running over. Untactful guy. Why did he come to join in the fun? Could Jojo's family's favorability be improved by just anyone? Don't even think about it. Humph. Chapter 246. Little Imo, eat more. Wei Ziqin kept putting food into Prince Mo's bowl and didn't forget to call out to Duanyu. Ayu, you eat too. Xiao Lin watched as the food that originally belonged to her was placed into the two youths' bowls. She could only aggrievedly gnaw on the bun in her hand. Arbor felt even more aggrieved and exhausted. She wanted to eat a piece of meat, so her parents rushed to give meat to the two youths. She wanted to eat a mouthful of vegetables, so her parents took turns to make the two youths eat more vegetables. In the end, she wanted to drink a mouthful of soup, but her mother snatched the large soup ladle from her hand and eagerly ladled a large bowl for Prince Imo. How infuriating! How could there be such differential treatment? After finally finishing lunch with a stifled heart, the unscrupulous parents carried Xiao Lin and pulled Xiaohu away. The child scowled as she bounced to the reception pavilion next door and sat down in an armchair. She stared at the approaching Duanyu. Why are you still here? Don't the people from your sect need to go back? Prince Imo nodded in agreement and slowly walked to the child's side to sit down. Duanyu felt like he was already used to the child's insults, so he didn't mind her cold attitude at all. He ran to her and placed a box in front of the child. For you. On the side, the crown prince immediately glared daggers at Duanyu. This punk actually dared to use a gift to trick the little girl. The child opened the box and saw that it was 5 core ravaging thunders that could blow up half a mountain. Although her face was expressionless, the two youths could sense that much of the pressure around the child had dissipated. The child had always been very straightforward when it came to accepting gifts. She would silently accept them if they were given to her. You still want to be polite? Don't even think about it. I'm already giving you enough face by not leaving with the gift after accepting it. I'm going back to the Daybreak sect with them in the afternoon. Duanyu pursed his lips. I probably won't be able to come out for 2 to 3 years. However, I heard that the 3 sects will have a competition every few years. We will still have a chance to meet again in the future. Oh, the child nodded. After saying so much, you only replied with an oh. How can we continue chatting happily like this? This child's expressionless face seemed to have a special skill that could kill a conversation. Okay, got it. Imo-chan raised his hand and picked up the child who was caught off guard. He turned around and waved his sleeves to send the guest off. You should go back and pack up, so I won't send you off. Housekeeper, please send the guest out. This guy was overstepping his authority. Why do you act like you're the master of my house? The child reached out and punched him. He wanted to struggle again, but his little hand fell into Prince Mo's hand. The child laid on Prince Mo's shoulder, and his round eyes glanced at the miserable Duanyu one last time. After some thought, he extended his other small paw and symbolically waved it at him. Bon voyage. Woo. Why did I read such heartless words from her eyes? A smooth journey ended just like that? He still had a lot of farewell words to say before he was forcefully sent off. Was this really okay? At least he should say that he might miss him in the next few years. If only time could stop at this moment. The tall and frivolous youth stood by the door and warmly looked in the direction the little girl left. Under his long eyelashes, a faint smile appeared in his clear peach blossom eyes. Just you wait, damn girl. Chapter 247. Imo youngster lowered his head to glance at the box the child was hugging. With a light snort, he reached out to take the box from her and tossed it onto a stool at the side. The child glared at him with round eyes. Stinky brat, you're too rude. Why are your eyes so round? Prince Imo chuckled and sat down with the child in his arms. No matter how round your eyes are, you're still an expressionless little stoic. So what if she's stoic? I love stoic faces. Humph, I also love stoic faces. Prince Imo nodded in agreement. He turned the child around to face him and looked at her with a grin. If we're separated for 3 to 5 years, will you miss me? The child raised her chin awkwardly. I won't. Prince Imo broke into laughter. He shifted the child's awkward face back and planted a kiss on her forehead. I'll miss Jojo. I'll miss you a lot. I'll miss you a lot. A lot. I'll miss you a lot. The child's expression was dazed for a moment. Being dazed was a huge improvement compared to being expressionless. Dazed was also a type of expression, Crown Prince thought. The Crown Prince swiped through the air and stuffed a large bag of jingling spirit stones into the child's arms. He rubbed her stoic little face and said, "There are 500 spirit stones here. It should be enough for you to use for 3 to 5 years. Let that golem live. When I'm not here, let that guy talk to you in my place. You know, Jojo, you have to talk more. Don't stop talking just because you think it's tiring. How can talking tire you? Look at this child. If no one talked to her, she would probably be mute for the entire day." "Oh, I've said so much, and you only freaking said oh? Darling Xiao, you can really kill a conversation at any time. You're not allowed to say it." Mo youngster smiled helplessly and pressed his forehead against hers. The child rolled his eyes and reached out to take out the little golem, placing a spirit stone in its stomach. In less than a second, the noisy golem jumped up and danced as it sang, "Little master, little master, little master, you're awesome. Little master, you're finally not stingy. You're the stingy one. Your whole family is stingy." "I gave it a name." Kid reached out and pressed on the golem's head. The young man smiled and looked at her. "What's your name?" "His name is Debale." "Oh, little master has given me a name. Big Treasure. My name is Big Treasure." The golem waved its small arms and legs as it spun around on the spot. Emolian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She looked down at the child and smiled. "Why are you called Debale?" The child tilted his head and blinked his big, watery eyes. "I don't know. I just thought of it." Emolian couldn't help but smile and teased her. "Is it because you're called Little Bao that you call it Big Bao?" The child's eyes suddenly widened as he stared at the youth in front of him in a daze, not reacting for a long time. Emolian couldn't help but panic a little. She hugged her and shook her a little. "Jojo, what's wrong with Jojo?" Arbor snapped out of his daze and looked at him blankly. "What did you just call me? Jojo?" Arbor shook her head. "Little Bao? What was so strange about the name Little Bao? Why was the child's expression so strange?" "Jojo. It's nothing." Arbor nodded in a daze. It's nothing. Although Emolian was a little puzzled, she didn't continue asking since she had recovered. Arbor raised her hand to keep the bag of spirit stones and looked at Crown Prince. "Are we leaving tomorrow?" Prince Emo nodded and looked at the child with a serious expression. "Tonight, we'll have a reunion dinner with Uncle and Auntie and say goodbye." Arbor's little face instantly darkened. Chapter 248. As expected, Father and Mother Qiao enjoyed dinner to their heart's content. Second Uncle Qiao even told Arbor to bring out 3 jars of bamboo leaf wine and drink 10 or so cups with the youth. Seeing that the youth didn't hold back at all, Second Uncle Qiao actually had the idea of competing with the youth's alcohol tolerance. In the end, Second Uncle drank until he collapsed. Arbor helplessly pursed her lips. "Second Uncle, don't casually compete with others if your alcohol tolerance isn't good. Look at how you collapsed when the second jar was just opened." But the youth's expression didn't change at all. Seeing that it was getting late, Father and Mother Qiao enthusiastically invited the youth to stay the night. Arbor felt that something wasn't right, but she couldn't put her finger on it. She then thought about what the youth said earlier and racked her brain. Suddenly, a light bulb lit up, and she finally sensed that something wasn't right. He was a crown prince who had nothing to do with old Xiao's family. What was there to reunite with old Xiao's family? He even had the glorified excuse of having a reunion dinner with Uncle and Auntie. Darling Xiao secretly glared at the Crown Prince. Coincidentally, the Crown Prince sensed it and turned his head back. He flashed her a smile, and it was as if the sky was filled with stars. That face was truly blinding. How infuriating. Every time she ate with the Crown Prince, it was as if the baby had been picked up from the streets. Mother and father's attention was completely not on their own daughter. Second Uncle Qiao hugged the half-open jar of wine as he sprawled on the table and murmured in a daze, "Bamboo leaf wine. Bamboo leaf wine." Wei Ziqin was overjoyed, and she hurriedly instructed Sun Yang to help second uncle back to rest. Arbor thought for a moment, then took out 6 peaches and 2 leaves from the storage talisman and placed them on the table. The peach trees in the paradise bore fruit very slowly. After so long, she had only plucked 6 peaches, and they had been stored in the storage talisman. There are fruits after the meal. 1 each. Eat. Peaches. The little foodie immediately jumped up and was the first to jump to Arbor's side. Reaching out to grab one of the peaches, "Yo, this peach grows well." Xiao Zhongbong immediately laughed. "Father, eat this leaf first, then eat this peach." Arbor handed the leaves and peaches to his father and said to his mother, "Mother, you too? I've thought about it. Father, your profound veins are damaged, causing your profound energy to flow out completely. But that doesn't mean that you won't be able to sense profound energy from now on." Arbor looked at his father with a serious expression and said, "This leaf can increase a normal person's perception and profound strength. Who knows, it might even help you reconstruct your profound veins. Logically speaking, with Mother's condition, it is impossible for her to reopen her profound veins, but there is no harm in eating this leaf. At least it can strengthen her body." The couple stared blankly at their daughter, especially Xiao Zhongbong, who listened to his daughter's explanation as if he was listening to a fairy tale. He couldn't help but stutter when he opened his mouth. "Daughter, why you mean that this leaf can help father sense mystic energy again? It should be possible. Father, give it a try. If it's useful, it won't be too late to eat this peach." The energy contained in this peach was very rich. Although the amount wasn't much, it should be enough for father to advance. This little leaf was actually comparable to the pulse-regulating pill. Xiao Zhongbong didn't say anything else and swallowed the leaf in one gulp. Wei Ziqin also ate the leaf. Soon, Xiao Zhongbong looked at his daughter with joy at the turn of events. "Jojo, father felt it. Father felt the recovery of profound energy, the awakening of profound veins. It seems that I can really reconstruct my profound veins." Arbor nodded. Father's condition is equivalent to the second time he has opened his profound veins and completely reconstructed his profound veins. Chapter 249. Her premonition wasn't wrong. The leaf she snatched from the sapling was indeed useful to Xiao Zhongbong. "Daughter, father has to go into closed-door cultivation immediately. Take care of little Amo and arrange for him to rest." Xiao Zhongbong left this sentence and left in a hurry. Arbor couldn't help but want to roll her eyes. At such a critical juncture, father still couldn't abandon little Prince Amo and even instructed her to take good care of him, as if she had mistreated him. "Mother, what do you think?" Arbor looked towards her mother. However, Wei Ziqin had an odd expression as she looked back at Arbor and asked, "Jojo, those mystic meridians. Are mystic meridians like thin and weak meridians? Can you feel a trace of special energy slowly swimming within?" Arbor's eyes suddenly lit up. "Mother, you've triggered your mystic meridians?" "Should be." Wei Ziqin nodded in astonishment. She knew her own body best. Back then, her family's miss had once said that she had no hope of triggering her mystic meridians in this lifetime and could only settle down as a normal person. Thus, she had never rashly asked to become a mystic cultivator. But today, actually, dot on the side, Xiao, whose mouth had long gaped open so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed in. Today was truly too dazzling. In the beginning, eldest uncle felt that his mystic meridians were recovering and had hope of successfully repairing them. Now, it was even more exaggerated. Eldest aunt, who had never cultivated mystic energy, actually said that she had successfully triggered her mystic meridians. Just that tiny leaf, a leaf. Xiao, who hurriedly threw himself to Arbor's side and shook her arm, saying, eldest sister, do you still have that leaf? Give big brother one." Arbor couldn't help but laugh as she looked at the dignified child. "You dummy, you're already a mystic cultivator. You don't need to sense mystic energy anymore. If you just want to increase your mystic energy and advance, eating peaches will do too." Peaches. Xiao, who had a flash of inspiration and hurriedly picked up a peach. He stared dumbfoundedly at Xiao Lin, who had already finished half of it. "Big sister, Little sister has already eaten half of the peach. Why isn't she having any reaction? Arbor couldn't help but laugh when he saw how his sister wished she could bury her head in the peach. Little Lin is still too young. Opening her profound meridians now wouldn't do her any good. It's better to slow down and wait until you're 7 or 8 years old. Since he had yet to trigger his meridians or temper his body, he was naturally unable to absorb the energy contained within the peach juice. Therefore, this glutton was the true reckless waste of natural resources. Eating peaches was only to satisfy one's appetite. Sister. This peach. Xiaolin's little hand, which was covered in peach juice, touched the second peach. She was reluctant to let go, but her eyes looked pitifully at her older sister. Arbor was about to die from her laughter. He shook his head and said, "Big sister doesn't want to eat anymore. I'll save it for you. But you're not allowed to eat it today. Save it for tomorrow after lunch." Xiaolin Baobao's eyes suddenly lit up. She hurriedly reached out to take Taozi and smiled sweetly at her sister. "Thank you, sister. This is for you." Arbor stuffed the last peach into the crown prince's hands. He turned to his mother and said, "Mother, you should also return to your room and go into seclusion. Remember to eat the peach. It'll help you advance. I'll take Xiaolin to sleep now." After sending his sister back to her bedroom and settling her down, classmate Arbor brought the crown prince out of the loft and pattered out. "Jojo, how about you owe me a gift in return first? When we meet again, I'll give it to you." The crown prince put away the peach with a grin. He followed behind the child with her short legs and slowly walked step by step. Gift in return? A certain person's handsome face appeared in front of the little fellow's eyes. She angrily turned her head and continued to patter forward. "Young man, you're taking advantage of me." Chapter 250. Under the night sky, a crimson light flashed past. As the light spread, the crown prince and Xiaomu looked up at the same time. Arbor suddenly felt her body lighten. She looked helplessly at the crown prince, who had reached out to lift her up. She gritted her teeth. A certain child muttered, "I want to grow taller, but I won't let him carry me. Jojo, I will miss you very much." The crown prince pressed his forehead against hers and softly muttered, "Don't worry, I will remember your gift. When we meet again, I will definitely return it to you. Okay? Okay, your head. What kind of gift is that? I don't really want it." "Okay." The crown prince agreed on behalf of a certain child with a smile. You can even talk to yourself to this extent. Shameless fellow, I am so angry." After a red light flashed past in midair, a slightly shorter black figure suddenly appeared behind the crown prince. It was a young boy of about 11 or 12 years old. He was completely different from Xiaohu's dignified appearance. This young boy was cold and handsome, and his eyes were sharp. The strangest thing was the pair of eyes that he cast over. They were naturally different, and they were gold and red. Xiaomu's face was filled with curiosity as she watched, completely ignoring the young man's taut, handsome face that refused to let anyone see him. "This is little Seven." Prince Imo glanced at the child behind him with a headache. Look at this impatient child. She had already said that she would leave early tomorrow morning, but she couldn't wait to come. "You are that flaming golden dragon." The child's eyes lit up as she sized up Seventh Yan's head. The towering and terrifying dragon head had actually become a human head now. The young boy glanced at her and looked away with a snort. His attitude is bad. The child turned her head to look at the crown prince with a stoic face. She didn't even realize that she was complaining. "Can I beat him?" The crown prince almost laughed out loud. He shook his head regretfully. "You can't beat him." The child made an "oh" sound and muttered to herself, "If I can't beat him, then forget it." The crown prince. Hearing this, the young boy turned to glare at her. This little brat meant that if she could beat him, she would give him a good beating? Audacious, audacious, impudent human. The young man turned his head and glared at the child. The child rolled his eyes and glared back at him, unwilling to be outdone. The crown prince held the child's waist with one hand and carried the child into the loft. Could it be that the auras of these two little fellows were incompatible? Why were they staring at each other like black-eyed chickens when they first met? It was better not to put the two of them together. We can't stay over tonight. Emolian put the child on the bed and patted her forehead with regret. Go to sleep. Be good and close your eyes. I'll leave after I see you fall asleep. Arbor. There's no way I can fall asleep if you stare at me like that. The crown prince patted her small body and said softly, Don't worry. I won't forget the gift in return. We'll meet again soon. When that time comes. The crown prince flicked his sleeves. Xiaomu vaguely smelled a faint, calming medicinal fragrance. Her long eyelashes fluttered, and she actually fell asleep. Emolian sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her in a daze for a while under the cold moonlight through a thin veil. Then, he got up and left. The door to the room closed with a creak. The young man's tall and slender back was elongated under the cold moonlight. He looked lonely and elegant, like snow. Seventh Yan's figure flashed, and he transformed into a dragon and flew into the sky, circling and dancing under the cold moonlight. The crown prince leaped up and quietly stood on the dragon's back. He turned his head and gazed deeply at the small courtyard. Although he wasn't there, his heart yearned for it. We'll meet again, Jojo. The flaming golden dragon swept across the sky, illuminating the pitch-black horizon and sprinkling a sea of golden flames. Chapter 251. By the time Arbor woke up, it was already late in the morning. Hugging the thin blanket, she sat on the bed with a slightly lost expression. She actually slept quite well last night, but for some reason, she felt uneasy. In her hazy dream, she seemed to have seen the crown prince's figure leaving on a dragon. The youth's aloof figure turned into a red dot, and the farther he went, the more intense it became in her eyes. It was like a blazing inferno that could burn through thousands of layers of ice and thousands of miles of snowy peaks. He left. Duan Yu also ran away. Master, eldest senior sister, and everyone else left. It seemed that in that instant, the surrounding air quieted down, and she was the only one left in the world. A faint sense of loneliness lingered in her heart, unable to be brushed away for a long time. It was as if, in the past, she was also abandoned by someone important. Good morning, Master. Master is as beautiful as a flower today. Good. The silence was completely broken by the golem's noisy voice. Sister. Xiao Lin used her chubby body to knock open the door with a bang and gave her a big grin. Arbor jumped down from the bed and swept away the gloom in her heart. She pulled her sister's hand and said with a smile, Go wash up? Master. Wait for me. The golem bounced and chased after the two sisters. Xiao Lin looked back curiously. Sister, that little doll can talk. That's right, he's called Big Bao. Not only can he talk, but he can also do many things. Arbor half-carried the chubby Xiao Lin, and led her over the tall threshold to walk down the attic. When she pushed open the attic's door, a ray of sunlight shone in from outside, so warm that she couldn't help but squint her eyes. Arbor paused and took out a common communication jade tablet for the hidden pavilion and night pavilion from her pocket. A line of words quickly appeared on it. Reporting to Miss, Royal Guardian from the vassal king of Nan's estate has arrived at Guanlan City and is currently rushing back to the vassal king's estate. Arbor took out a talisman pin and left a line of words on the communication jade tablet. Continue to keep an eye on him. Report back immediately once the royal guard meets with that commandery princess. Sister, what are you writing? Xiao Lin blinked curiously. Sister is writing about how to punish bad people. The corners of Arbor's mouth slowly curled up into a sneer. With a swipe of his hand, he grabbed Nian Kuei's strand of life soul. The vassal king of Nan's estate's Huiyan, right? Do you think you'll be fine just like that? I've never met you before, but you dared to harm me. It seems that there's no need for you to exist anymore. Baby Chow's section break, the galloping horses galloped rapidly on the main road of Guanlan City, startling the pedestrians on both sides of the road and forcing them to give way. The people who lived in the royal capital had long since recognized the attire of the high officials in the royal residence. When they saw the royal guards of the vassal king of Nan's estate galloping past, no one dared to say anything and obediently dodged to the side. The members of the vassal king of Nan's estate were used to being arrogant in Guanlan City, so no one dared to offend them. Otherwise, they would definitely suffer. Nian Kuei's face was dark as he gripped the reins tightly with both hands and rushed back to the Wang Fu. When the horse arrived at the entrance of the estate, Nian Kuei leaped off the horse and tossed the reins to the manservant before hastily heading inside. He had to immediately report to the commandery princess that His Highness the Crown Prince had actually left the capital in the middle of the night to meet with that lowly commoner girl in private. He had even extracted a strand of Nian Kuei's soul for that girl. Utterly abominable. He had to ask the commandery princess to step in and take back that strand of his soul. Chapter 252. When Nian Kuei was led inside, Commandery Princess Hui was looking at herself in the mirror and trying on 2 new pieces of jewelry. Hearing the footsteps, the Commandery Princess did not even look up and asked nonchalantly, "Is it done? How is the little bitch's reaction after eating the medicine I gave her?" Nian Kuei's expression was a bit unsightly, and he suddenly knelt down on one knee. "Commandery Princess, this subordinate was incompetent." Commandery Princess Hui was startled, and she abruptly slammed her hand on the dressing table. She angrily glared at the kneeling Nian Kuei through the mirror. "You mean you failed?" Nian Kuei was a level 7 body cultivator. How could he fail when he was sent to a small town to deal with a commoner? Hui could not accept this kind of failure at all. She glared at Nian Kuei coldly and angrily. What exactly happened? Nian Kuei did not even dare to look up. He organized his words and quickly reported the matter. Hui's face alternated between green and white. She pondered for a long time before coldly asking with a dark face, "You're saying that Brother Crown Prince cares about a 7 or 8-year-old brat?" Nian Kuei nodded repeatedly. "That's right. His Highness the Crown Prince secretly left the capital for this girl, so Commandery Princess must already know about this. You ran into Brother Crown Prince in Shiju City." Hui's delicate face was so dark that water could drip from it. "Yes. Good. Good. Commandery Princess Hui unclenched her teeth and cheered repeatedly. She instantly broke a jade bracelet woven with gold threads in her hand. Brother Crown Prince treated her like she was nothing and had never treated her well. She observed that his usual behavior kept people at arm's length, so she thought that he treated all women the same as he treated her. He was cold, noble, and unpredictable, like a clear stream in the mountains. He was so aloof that no woman could get close to him. However, she did not expect him to do something so outrageous. He abandoned state affairs, left the capital overnight, and disappeared for so many days just to see a commoner girl from a small town. She could not understand. She could not accept or agree with him. Brother Crown Prince's actions broke the fragile heart of a young girl. Hui abruptly slapped the broken jade bracelet in her hand and said with gritted teeth, "Nian Kuei, I want you to bring another group of people to Shiju City. This time, I'm going to kill this bitch. She doesn't know what's good for her and doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Did she think that a slut like her would be able to become a phoenix one day? I will never let her get what she wants." "Princess." The Crown Prince extracted a strand of my soul and gave it to the young lady. "I'm afraid I'm not up to the task. Princess, please help me plead with the Crown Prince and ask for my soul back." Hui's eyes suddenly widened. From the mirror, she could see that guard Nian, who had been chattering, suddenly swelled up like a bulging ball. "No." Commandery Princess Hui simply could not imagine the impact of a 7th-layer body cultivator's self-detonation at such a close distance. She took a step forward, intending to escape. Nian Kuei's body suddenly exploded. The loud noise even traveled out of the vassal king of Nan's estate and shook half of the capital. Whether it was the peddlers setting up their stalls, the people chatting loudly with their neighbors, or the hurried passers-by on the street, all of them froze in that instant and looked back in shock in the direction of the vassal king of Nan's estate. The earth trembled continuously from the tremors. The terrifying impact of the explosion destroyed more than half of the commandery princess's boudoir in the center of the vassal king of Nan's estate. Even many trees in the back garden were forcefully snapped. Chapter 253. In the southern study of the Eastern Palace, a heavy atmosphere spread among the officials. The officials looked at each other as they watched His Highness the Crown Prince, who was reading memorials with his head lowered, sitting behind the desk. No one wanted to be the first to speak up. I heard that everyone has been quite lively recently. Quite a few memorials to impeach me have been sent to the Queen Dowager. The Crown Prince looked up at everyone as he flipped through the memorials. The Marquis of Stability, Zhao Shang, stood outside the crowd and looked up at the sky with an aloof expression. He was taut and didn't say a word. Behind the Marquis of Stability was naturally a group of people from the Crown Prince's faction led by him. They were all shooting murderous looks at their colleagues around them. Who told you to be smug and jump around? Humph. The Marquis of Jiajing, Su Pingyong, stood next to Zhao Shang and subconsciously wiped the sweat on his forehead with his sleeve. Censor Zhao, Censor Huang, I heard that the two of you sent 18 memorials to impeach the Queen Dowager in the past few days. The imperial censors led by you have truly worked hard and rendered great service. The Crown Prince tossed his brush and asked coldly, "How should we thank you? Your Highness, please calm your anger." The officials trembled as they knelt in salute. Censor Zhao was nearly 70 years old and his temples were grizzled. He knelt in front of the desk with his back straight and his head held high as he saluted. Your Highness, the Crown Prince set aside a pile of state affairs and left the capital for so many days without saying a word. This old official has indeed initiated a joint effort to invite many imperial censors to impeach Your Highness. If Your Highness wants to blame us, this old official is willing to bear all the responsibility and accept any beating or punishment. Even if you want this old official to resign and leave the capital, this old official still has to say it. Your Highness's actions are indeed inappropriate. The great king went to Mount Hong to pray for the people and entrusted state affairs to Your Highness. How can Your Highness act rashly and ignore state affairs? The Crown Prince stared at the old man for a while before snorting. The old officials who were on good terms with Censor Zhao all broke out in cold sweat for the old man. This Crown Prince looked gentle and kind on the surface, but in reality, he was very eccentric when it came to handling matters. It was very likely that he had secretly dealt with this old man. He even dared to make a move on the great king's favored consort, let alone an old man. Let them take a look. Crown Prince unexpectedly didn't get angry. Instead, he tossed out this cold sentence. Shao 11, Z immediately stepped forward and handed out something like a list, as well as a blueprint. The ministers passed it around and read it. Everyone was surprised. So His Highness received news that a large amount of supplies had appeared in Qinghe town. That's why he immediately led his men there. The soldiers from the South Camp sent by His Highness the Crown Prince will be able to transport the food and supplies back in 2 days. Everyone was overjoyed, but they also looked at each other. After carefully looking at the blueprint, their faces became more and more ashamed. This monarch has seen the construction of Shiju City's defenses. Based on this foundation, we plan to first build large-scale fortifications in the various major cities, with the capital as the center, and expand outwards. This process should take several years, but once completed, it will definitely be beneficial to the people and the country. As the Crown Prince spoke, everyone crowded around the blueprint and scrambled to read it. A moment later, the group of officials hurriedly knelt and begged for forgiveness, especially the old officials who had impeached the Crown Prince countless times. Their faces were filled with shame. So it turned out the Crown Prince had left the capital to do something big. See, without a word, the food had been transported back. After inspecting the construction of Shiju City's defenses, he also had a plan for the future defenses of Mo Kingdom for the next several years. This subject is ashamed. The Crown Prince raised his phoenix eyes and coldly swept his gaze over the group of officials. Rise. This monarch hopes that all of you will think carefully before you do anything in the future. Don't be hot-headed and be used by others for nothing. This subject was muddle-headed. Before Censor Zhao could kneel and beg for forgiveness, the Crown Prince waved his hand at him. Censor Zhao was about to speak with shame on his face when a loud sound suddenly spread through half of Guanlan City. Mo Lian's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 254. Your Highness, Your Highness. The steward eunuch, Gong Chang'an, ran inside in a panic and rolled to the ground. Something big has happened, Your Highness. Just now, someone from the vassal king of Nan's estate self-detonated and attacked Commandery Princess Hui An. Apparently, she's heavily injured. The vassal king of An, Nan has sent people to the palace to invite several royal physicians to the estate to save her. The crown prince's expression was indifferent. He only nodded slightly and waved his hand to dismiss the steward eunuch. All the officials looked at each other without saying anything. He Qizheng, I'll leave the construction of the fortifications to you. The crown prince looked at a dark-skinned man in his 50s. This person was the right assistant minister of the Ministry of Works, He Qizheng, He Tian's father. He Qizheng cupped his hands in acknowledgement, his square face brimming with righteousness. Everyone secretly looked back at the Minister of Works' fecal face and silently gulped. The crown prince directly bypassed the minister and handed the task to the right assistant minister, He Qizheng. His attitude was simply too obvious. Just as they said, don't go overboard. Besides, our crown prince wasn't someone to be trifled with. This lord's temperament was perverse and extremely straightforward. Moreover, the connections in his hands were perhaps much more than they imagined. The Marquis of Jiajing, Su Pingyong, who usually liked to smooth things over, wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He had a premonition that since the Minister of Works and the left assistant minister were jumping around so fiercely, it would be their turn to suffer next. In a flash, the officials all withdrew. The crown prince flipped through the memorial to the throne next to him and slightly raised his head to look at Hui Feng, who had swiftly entered. How is it? Reporting to your highness. Hui Feng cupped his hands and quickly reported. Commandery Princess Hui An was sitting in front of the dressing mirror at the time. After Nian Kuei self-detonated at close range, Commandery Princess Hui An was injured by the lens, and her face was unrecognizable from the explosion. She lost her sight in her left eye. She actually didn't die? The crown prince's voice was slightly surprised. His little fellow was a black-hearted and ruthless little thing. She deliberately made Nian Kuei return to Hui and sighed before crushing his soul and causing it to self-detonate without hesitation. It was inevitable that Hui An would suffer the consequences of her own actions. However, the crown prince didn't expect that Hui An wouldn't die from the explosion at such a close range. The princess used a 4th-level defensive profound weapon at the critical moment. Hui Feng said, although she still can't withstand Nian Kuei's self-detonation, her life is saved. Of course, that level 4 defensive profound artifact was definitely completely destroyed and could no longer be used. What did the vassal king of Nan say? The crown prince grabbed a cup of warm tea and held it loosely in his hand, his gaze incomparably sharp. The vassal king of Nan has just dispatched several hidden guards out of the capital. Deal with it, the crown prince de-emphasized. If the vassal king of Nan is smart, he should know what to investigate and what not to investigate. The crown prince's voice was clearly so indifferent, but Huifeng's heart inexplicably tightened. If the vassal king of Nan dared to provoke his highness the crown prince, that would absolutely be an extremely unwise move. Your highness, how should we deal with the matter of the Minister of Works and the left assistant minister inciting the imperial censors? We feel that he is somewhat unfit for the position of minister, so it would be more appropriate for him to abdicate the position to a worthy person. The crown prince's expression was cold and apathetic. Last time, the youngest brother of the Minister of Works family obtained a lucrative position from the great king. Their entire Huang family profited quite a bit from the construction of the canals in Meilong City. Hui Feng immediately understood. This subordinate will immediately instruct the Night Pavilion members to organize the previously collected information and hand it to those imperial censors. The crown prince's phoenix eyes flashed, and a faint smile flitted across his pursed lips. Chapter 255. The next day, the youngest brother of the Minister of Works took advantage of his position to send all the details of the corruption and fraud case to the imperial censors in multiple copies. The imperial censors, led by Censor Zhao, all exploded in anger. They sent impeachment memorials to the crown prince as if they didn't cost anything. The Minister of Works was caught unprepared by this matter and was too overwhelmed to fend for himself, so he naturally didn't have the energy to find trouble with the crown prince. On the other side, the crown prince sat in the study and quietly listened to Huifeng's report. The vassal king of Nan personally led a team to escort the commandery princess out of the city today. He said he was going to find the ghost physician of the ghost sect to try his best to save the commandery princess's face. Huifeng calmly said, but the imperial physicians also said that even if the commandery princess tried his best to save her face, her eyes wouldn't be able to be saved. The crown prince nodded, no longer in the mood to listen to Hui An's matter with a disinterested expression. The hidden guards from the vassal king of Nan's estate who went out of the city to investigate the reason for Nian Kuei's self-detonation have all been disposed of by the hidden pavilion. The vassal king of Nan probably understood your highness's intentions and didn't send anyone else to investigate. The crown prince sneered. At least he's tactful. If he dared to set his sights on the little girl again, he wouldn't mind sending this sworn brother of the great king off on his way. Your highness, the provisions delivered by the South Camp soldiers just arrived this morning. Very good. Have Song Yuan from the Ministry of Revenue properly arrange this batch of supplies? The crown prince stood up and walked outside as he coldly asked, how has the great king been doing in Mount Hong recently? Huifeng lowered his head, and the corner of his mouth twitched. The great king really isn't doing well. With your highness making things difficult for the great king at every turn, it'd be strange if the great king was happy. 12th prince, be careful. His Highness the Crown Prince is discussing politics in the southern study. You can't barge in so rudely. The wet nurse's anxious voice came from afar. Big brother. The small purple-red figure strenuously stepped over the tall study threshold and rolled toward his big brother's feet. He hugged his big brother's thigh and cried, Big brother. Grand Tutor Li hit my study partner, Song Xiaodai. Big brother. You have to stand up for me. Hit him for me. Hit him. Huifeng. The crown prince looked speechlessly at his younger brother who was rolling and crying at his feet. He raised his head and looked at the middle-aged man with a pale face who lifted his green robe and bowed in greeting. Your humble servant greets your highness the crown prince. Grand Tutor, please rise. The crown prince massaged his temples with a headache. He scooped up a certain brat who was clinging to his leg and refused to let go. Holding the brat on his leg, he looked helplessly at the elegant Grand Tutor in green robes. Grand Tutor, what's going on? Without waiting for Grand Tutor Li to speak, the 5-year-old brat, Immerse, took the initiative to complain, Big brother. It's him. He hit my study partner, Song Xiaodai. He was being unreasonable. I don't want to study anymore. Huifeng. His little highness is testing his big brother's patience. Grand Tutor Li is the most knowledgeable person in Imperial College. You even taught me, your big brother. The crown prince lifted the child up in exasperation and looked with amusement at the oval-shaped red bun face from crying. What did you do that the Grand Tutor is punishing you and even implicating the third young master of the Minister of Revenue? Your Highness the Crown Prince, it's Xiaoye's fault. It was Xiaodai who was playful and took his 12th Highness to skip class. The 7-year-old Song Xiaodai lowered his head in shame. Immerse immediately jumped up and covered his head with one hand. He shook his head and said, Big brother, yours head hurts from studying every day. Can I not study anymore? The crown prince smiled gently at Immerse. Not only will you have a headache today, but your hands will also hurt, and your butt will hurt even more. Someone, bring me a ferule. Xiao 11, Z covered his mouth with his hand. Chapter 256. Little Immerse's hand was hit twice by His Highness the Crown Prince, and he cried for a full 15 minutes. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, he stopped wailing and sniffled as he wiped his tears with a small handkerchief. At the same time, he secretly peeked at his big brother, who was reviewing memorials behind the desk. Give His 12th Highness some water to moisten his throat. The Crown Prince put down his brush and instructed coldly. Little Immerse felt a prickling pain in his red hand when he held the cup, and his tears fell pitter-patter. When Big Brother got angry, he didn't even look at Little Brother. So scary that Little Immerse shuffled his little butt and jogged to the Crown Prince's side. He hugged his thigh and begged to be petted, whining pitifully, Big brother, I was wrong. I'll definitely study hard in the future and won't drag Shout-I out to play anymore. I won't contradict the Grand Tutor anymore. I'll definitely be obedient and won't cause trouble. I'll be a good child. Don't be angry, big brother." The Crown Prince glanced back at him and reached out to place him on the desk. He looked at little Imoyu with a serious expression and said, You have to remember, Big Brother's burden will be handed over to you sooner or later. In the future, Mother will also need you to take care of her. You have to be a responsible man." He muttered to himself for a while before saying softly, "Big Brother will leave sooner or later." Little Imoyu hugged his big brother's arm and shouted, "No, I won't let Big Brother leave. Big Brother, where are you going? Take you with you. And Mother Empress, let's go together." There was no way to communicate with the little brat. The Crown Prince flicked the little brat's head. "In 2 days, Big Brother will test your homework. If it's still a mess, just you wait. You made your big brother lose face in front of the Grand Tutor. Big Brother will definitely make you lose even more face." Little Imoyu's round face was completely scrunched up. He originally wanted to pretend to cry, but when his gaze fixed on a corner of the desk, his voice abruptly stopped. The little brat crawled forward on the desk, his little hand reaching for a fresh and red peach at the corner of the desk. "Big Brother, is this for you, to eat?" "Not really." Prince Imo mercilessly took the peach from Imoyu's hand. His face was calm, as if he did not realize that he was bullying a child. Imoyu's eyes suddenly widened as he turned his head to look at his elder brother in disbelief. Usually, if there was anything delicious or fun, Big Brother would give it to him. As long as he asked Big Brother would definitely give it to him. Why didn't she give him Tower today? This must be a fake Big Brother. "Big Brother, I want to eat peaches." Moyu continued to work hard for his own welfare. "No." The Crown Prince stood up and locked the delicious-looking pink and tender peach into a jade box. Imoyu's eyes instantly widened. Big Brother was so stingy as to lock a peach in a jade box. She wouldn't even spare him a glance? Big Brother doesn't like you anymore. This piece of news was like a bolt from the blue, reverberating in Imoyu's mind. The child suddenly felt that there was nothing left to live for. He collapsed on the desk with his arms and legs spread out. When Imo Lien turned around and saw the little brat's state, he almost burst out laughing. He walked over and nudged his little brother to the side of the desk. "Don't obstruct Big Brother's governance. Big Brother, why can't you, eat that peach?" the little brat inquired. Chapter 257. Prince Imo completely ignored his younger brother's paralyzed appearance and chuckled softly as he flipped through the memorial in his hand. "Because, Darling Xiao gave this to your big brother." Imoyu scrambled up from the desk and blinked, looking like he wanted to get to the bottom of this. "Who's Darling Xiao? She's 2 years older than you. She's a little girl." Prince Imo didn't even look up. "Then what about her studies? Has she studied as much as I have?" Imoyu sat on the Crown Prince's desk and continued to ask curiously. The Crown Prince looked up and glanced at him with a smile. "She has studied. She's not like you, who has to be chased and beaten by teachers all day long." Imoyu was unconvinced. "The Grand Tutor also praised me for my talent in studying. If I worked a little harder, I'd be even more impressive." "Oh, is that so?" The Crown Prince smiled sardonically. "Of course." Imoyu simply crawled up and stood on the Crown Prince's desk. He put his hands on his hips and faced his big brother. "Big Brother, if Darling Xiao doesn't study well, will you also beat her?" Hui Feng felt like the brothers' conversation was hilarious. "I won't." The Crown Prince set down a memorial and picked up another one. He lowered his eyes and continued to flip through it, completely ignoring his younger brother's stupefied expression. Imoyu huffed and shouted, "Why? Big Brother, aren't you treating her too differently?" Imoyu was very unconvinced. "You're a boy, and she's a girl. You can take a beating, but she can't." The Crown Prince had an indifferent expression. Xiao 11Z really couldn't hold it in and sneaked a look at Imoyu, who looked like he'd been dealt a blow with his large, dark eyes. "Big Brother, you're biased." Imoyu was angry. He tilted his head in thought and suddenly asked, "Big Brother, is Darling Xiao my sister-in-law?" If she wasn't his sister-in-law, Imoyu couldn't figure out why his big brother treated her so well. How could she not be beaten if she didn't study well? Unlike him, not only would he be scolded by the Grand Tutor if he didn't study well, but he would also be beaten by his big brother. Just thinking about it made him feel like was adopted. Prince Mo's hand that was flipping through the memorial paused for a moment. He raised his head to look at Immerse's solemn expression and couldn't help but laugh. You've become smarter. Immerse suddenly realized that when Big Brother said this, there seemed to be the light of shattered stars flickering in his eyes. He seemed to be in an extremely good mood. Little Immerse hurriedly jumped into his big brother's arms. Big brother, when can I see sister-in-law? Do you still have any more peaches with you? Will she be willing to let me eat it? When Hui Feng heard this as he walked out the door, he almost tripped and left with an exasperated expression. We will meet, the Crown Prince murmured softly, his voice as gentle as water. Crown Prince's family division line darling Xiao spent the past 2 months comfortably. Without any unnecessary people to disturb her, she would spend the day with her family and go into seclusion to practice martial arts at night. She even asked City Lord Gu to buy blank talisman paper from all over the city. In this way, he managed to purchase more than 500 blank talisman papers and exchange them for 50 kilograms of rice. The 2 talisman shop owners were unable to contain their joy. In the middle of September, Mother gave birth a few days earlier than in her previous life. The birth process was smoother than darling Xiao had imagined. In this life, Mother's health was very good, and she had also entered the ranks of mystic cultivators recently. Although she was only a level 2 mystic cultivator at the moment, her constitution was naturally much better than normal people's. In addition, the Qiao family had made early plans this time. The midwife had been brought over to live in the Qiao family a few days in advance, waiting for Mother's fetal movements so that she could deliver the baby at any time. As a result, there really weren't any accidents. When the midwife who delivered the baby carried little brother out with a smile on her face to announce the good news, Arbor's gentle gaze landed on little brother's swaddling clothes. Xiaoxin, we meet again. Chapter 258. For the past 2 months, Arbor's cultivation had remained at the initial success stage of level 4 Mystic Cultivator and hadn't had any major breakthroughs. Entry, gradual success, initial success, phenomenal success, and peak could be said to be the common cultivation stages for Mystic Cultivators. Mystic Cultivators below level 7 might not place too much importance on these small stages of cultivation, but as one's cultivation advanced to level 8, level 9, and even level 10 great Mystic Cultivators, even if it was just a small difference between entry and gradual success, it would be a world of difference in strength. Since her cultivation hadn't increased, Arbor had been focusing on drawing talismans for the past few days. She had drawn 200 to 300 blank talismans that City Lord Gu had collected for her, and they were basically all auxiliary talismans. Today, she planned to draw a few aura-concealing talismans that she had newly learned. Beginner-level talisman, aura-concealing talisman, reduced one's cultivation by 5 levels and maintained it for 1 month. This talisman was rather interesting. After Arbor drew 20 aura-concealing talismans, she used one and immediately discovered that her mystic energy was completely covered by the aura-concealing talisman. Now, even if she stood in front of her father and second uncle, they would be surprised to discover that they would no longer be able to sense any energy fluctuations from her body. She was just like an ordinary child without any cultivation at all. Arbor lowered her small head and continued to draw another 100 or so summoning talismans at a rapid pace. She stored the remaining 120 blank talismans in her purple storage talisman and kept them close to her body. She raised her head very happily and massaged her sore shoulders. Looking at the sky, it was already close to dusk. Her talisman drawing speed had increased by quite a bit, and she had drawn more than 150 talismans in one afternoon, especially this kind of super standard beginner-level summoning talisman. After failing to draw it several times, she became more and more proficient in the later stages. Of the 108 summoning talismans, 28 blue summoning talismans were drawn in the later stages. Arbor was abnormally happy. Grabbing a summoning talisman in her palm, Arbor propped up her chin with one hand and pondered. Should she try activating the talisman? The last time she activated the talisman, she got a weak chicken, It left a huge psychological shadow on her. Arbor ran down the attic and circled to the small garden in the back to stand still. She silently inhaled and lowered her head to look at the yellow summoning talisman in her palm. She felt that since her rebirth, she still had some luck. How could he summon the same weak chicken twice in a row? That's impossible. Therefore, it was better to give it a try. Xiaomu once again took a deep breath. She stretched out 2 fingers with a face full of righteousness and touched the yellow talisman lightly. After the yellow light dissipated, a goo sound was heard. Arbor's first thought was, why does this sound so familiar? Then, she glared at the thing that had spread its short wings and was rushing towards her with a goo-goo sound. Xiaomu and Xiaomu's dark eyes were about to fall out of their sockets in shock. Oh my god, why is it this one again? Weak chicken. What kind of ill-fated relationship was this? However, at a glance, this chicken was much taller than the first time he saw it. Its shape was somewhat similar to that of a young peacock. Furthermore, its feathers were more luxurious than when he first saw it. The feathers at the tip of its tail were much longer and emitted a greenish-blue halo. But no matter how much it changed, it couldn't change the fact that it was still a weak chicken. Deep breaths, don't be angry. Don't be angry. Calm down, calm down. I'm not a child anymore. I'm an adult. I'm an adult. I can't make life difficult for a chicken. I'm so angry. Xiaomu suddenly exploded. She pulled out a knife from somewhere and chased after the chicken to chop it. You scoundrel, why is it you again? I want to summon a beast. A beast. Do you understand? Why is a weak chicken like you rushing to the front? Go back. Go back. Chapter 259. Coo. Coo coo coo. Coo coo. The weak chicken let out a shrill cry and flapped its short wings as it ran toward the front of the garden. Its 2 slender ankles might look extremely thin, but it ran especially fast. Xiaomu didn't manage to pounce on him. Instead, she rolled into the flower bed. When she jumped out of the flower bed with a head full of flowers and grass, Xiaomu was stunned. Xiao Zhongbong, second Uncle Xiao, Xiao Yao, Xiao Hu, and the others, who rushed over upon hearing the commotion, were stupefied. Don't run, you weak chicken. Today, I'll slaughter you for second uncle's dishes. Our dear Xiaomu raised the knife in her hand and rushed past them. She ran so fast that she didn't even notice that one of her shoes had fallen off. Xiao Zhongbong, Second Uncle Xiao was overjoyed as he followed behind his little niece and roared with laughter. Jojo, don't be busy, don't be busy. Second uncle has braised fish today, so there's no need for this chicken to go with the wine. Don't run. Arbor angrily chased after it. The weak chicken didn't run out of the door and just circled around the court, going from east to west and from west to south. After running several laps around the house, our dear Xiaomu finally stopped, panting as she carried the knife. She looked at the chicken flapping its wings and cooing in confusion. Why did this fellow run so fast? She was a level 4 mystic cultivator, yet she couldn't catch up to a chicken. How could she endure this? Come over here. Weak chicken. Coo. The weak chicken spread its wings and arrogantly raised its slender neck, looking like it was saying, I won't go over. Arbor reached out to beat its small waist and angrily rolled up its small sleeves. Come over here. Are you coming over or not? If you don't come over, then don't come over for the rest of your life. Xiao Zhongbong was about to die of laughter for his daughter. She herself had never seen this child angrily berate the weak chicken, so it was extremely hilarious. Coo. The weak chicken bounced its slender ankles and ran to the child's side with a coo, coo, coo. Kid punched the chicken's head, and the weak chicken's feathers stood up with a coo sound, looking like it was about to explode. Infuriating. Darling Xiao took out 2 summoning talismans from her pocket. Damn it, she didn't believe it. She wanted to summon 2 more times to see if this random summon could summon something more reliable. He continued to use 2 summoning talismans. Arbor stood in front of the small flower bed and looked around for a long time. Why is there nothing? It was indeed a deceptive talisman. At this time, Newbie raised its slender claws. Arbor glanced at its claws and saw a small golden engraving of the word summon. Immediately, a basin of cold water was poured from head to toe. Her little face instantly turned black with anger. She grabbed the chicken by the neck and said angrily, "You rascal! Don't tell me you want to tell me. I summoned it 3 times in a row, and it all happened to you? Doesn't that mean?" She had summoned this weakling 3 times in a row. This weak chicken had to stay by her side for at least 3 days. The weak chicken very sensibly nodded its head, and then the child kicked it into the flower bed. During dinner, Kid's entire body was shrouded in a layer of low pressure. Xiao Zhongbong and second Uncle Qiao wanted to laugh, but they could only restrain themselves and try not to make a sound. They held their bowls and lowered their heads, their shoulders trembling slightly. That weak chicken strongly wanted to be brought to the table, and even had Xiao Yao bring a wide stool to sit next to Kid. The chicken gracefully nodded its head and pecked at the rice grains on the plate. Xiao Hu was just about to open his mouth and laugh when Xiao Yao reached out and covered his mouth. Darling Xiao looked up at Xiao Hu and snorted. She fiddled with the rice in her bowl with her chopsticks and angrily dug at it. "I'm done eating. I'm going to see Mother." She planned to leave tomorrow afternoon, and she wanted to say goodbye to her mother before leaving. Chapter 260. Mom, don't cry. Didn't we already agree on this before? I'm returning to the sect to cultivate, so there's not much danger. It's just that it might take a bit longer. Arbor held Wei Ziqin's hand and comforted her. Mom, don't worry. I'll take good care of myself. I'll definitely guarantee that you and will be chubby and won't be missing a piece of meat when I get home. Wei Ziqin didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she looked at her daughter and sighed. Her daughter had mentioned this to them before, but she always thought that her daughter would at least attend Xiao Sen's 1-month-old celebration before leaving. She didn't expect her daughter to leave so soon. Separation was imminent, and as a mother, she didn't feel good. Arbor looked down at her younger brother, who was sleeping soundly in his swaddling clothes, and smiled with a gentle gaze. Xiao, let your father send you on a journey tomorrow. Mom. Arbor swayed Wei Ziqin's sleeve. There's no need for Dad to send me off. Did you forget that I have Ao Yi, this great mystic cultivator, by my side? Xiao Zhongbong recovered his mystic cultivator status 2 months ago, and his cultivation even increased by 1 level after eating the peach. He was now a level 6 mystic cultivator. With her father, a level 6 mystic cultivator, holding down the fort at home, Arbor felt more at ease when he left. Mom, is there enough food at home? You child, you just love to worry. Mom already told you it's enough. The 30 talismans you gave Dad, Mom, and second uncle are all filled with food. The leftover food in the kitchen is enough to last us for more than half a year. Also, didn't the city lord's estate send a cart of grain and beans last time? The city lord is too polite, insisting that it's Xiaoma's rations. Xiaoma actually only ate a few meals here. With so much sent over, I can't even refuse it. Are there enough storage talismans? Enough. The things sent by the city lord's estate have all been stored. There are also space talismans in hand, so don't worry. Besides, your father and second uncle will also take on 1 or 2 small missions from time to time. The family will definitely gradually get better. Mother. Xiaomu buried her head in her mother's arms. Wei Ziqin smiled and smoothed her long hair. Good girl, you left home alone. You must always remember my words. You must be very careful. Our whole family is waiting for you to come back. They said their goodbyes for almost the entire night. His parents, second uncle, Xiao Hu, Xiao Lin and Xiao Yao all said their goodbyes one by one. The next morning, when the sky was just beginning to brighten, Arbor quietly left the house and ran directly to the Awang Trading Company in the city. When they arrived at the entrance of Awang Trading Company, they saw that the caravan was ready to depart. The middle-aged man leading the caravan was looking left and right. Upon seeing her small figure, she immediately went up to her and nodded politely. You must be Miss Qiao. City Lord Gu has already informed us. We will be responsible for bringing Miss Qiao safely to the western border of the Qiu Kingdom. Arbor looked at the cloth on the 4 or 5 carriages and looked up at the leading man. You must be the Uncle Wang that the city lord mentioned. Thank you. Miss Qiao is too polite. Uncle Wong said with a smile. Take the first carriage. The journey to the Chiu Kingdom is long and will take at least 10 days. It might be a bit bumpy along the way. Thank you for your trouble. Arbor nodded and boarded the first carriage. This carriage was slightly larger than the one behind, which was filled with cloth. However, there was still a lot of cloth piled up in the corner. Arbor leaned against the side of the carriage and ignored the astonished gazes of the coachman. When the coachman cracked his whip and the carriage wheels started rolling, she couldn't help but reach out to gently lift a corner of the curtain. She looked longingly in the direction of Pear Blossom Alley. At that moment, she really didn't know that after she left, so many years had passed and that the world was vast and boundless. Chapter 261. The main purpose of Awang Trading Company's trip was to visit the young miss who had married off to the distant Chiu Kingdom. Exchanging 4 carriages of cloth for food with a certain merchant association in Chiu Kingdom was secondary. Arbor didn't ask about anything else. To put it bluntly, she just wanted to hitch a ride and follow the trading company's caravan to the Chiu Kingdom. Then, she would think of a way to rush to the Great Snow Mountain outside Five Moon City. The caravan traveled day and slept at night, eating very arduously. Normally, they only ate bean porridge or mixed grain rice once a day. Rice and vegetables were out of the question. If it happened in other people's homes, they would have been beaten to death by the adults long ago for their extravagant behavior of using rice to exchange for this, and that all day. There were a total of 5 workers in the caravan, plus Uncle Wong's group of 6. When night fell and they missed their lodging, they set up their tents and sat together to eat a bowl of warm bean porridge. Everyone only had a small bowl, not even half a bowl more than that. Arbor actually didn't plan on sharing the pitifully small pot of bean porridge with them, but Uncle Wong always called her over every time it was time to eat. The little stoic didn't talk much, so she basically had nothing to say when she ate with everyone. If it weren't for a chatterbox in the caravan chatting her all day long, this little stoic could stay silent all day and night. That chatterbox young man was called Monkey. He was 15 or 16 years old and was especially talkative. After a few days of interaction, Monkey didn't find out anything about Darling Chow's situation. Instead, he told her everything about everyone in the caravan. He even told Darling Chow the little secret of their trading company's eldest miss marrying off to the distant Chiu Kingdom. Thanks to him, not only did Darling Chow know that the trading company's miss had eloped with someone to the Chiu Kingdom, but she also knew that she wasn't doing too well right now. The trading company's trip was said to be to visit the miss, but in reality, they wanted to bring the miss back as much as possible. After all, compared to the stability of the Mo Kingdom, a small border country like the Chiu Kingdom had much more difficult days, especially during this unusual period. However, this had nothing to do with Arbor, and she didn't have the leisure to care about it. The West is a mess. Wars break out every day and fights every year. There are endless disputes. Monkey drank a mouthful of porridge and smacked his lips as he said, "Little Chow, why did a child like you travel such a long distance to the Chiu Kingdom?" Uncle Wong lightly kicked Monkey. "You talk too much. Why does Miss Chow need to report to you? All right, hurry up and finish eating and go to sleep. We still have to leave early tomorrow morning." "Oh, look, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Why does it look like a chicken is squatting under the tree?" A young man in the convoy rubbed his eyes while holding a bowl of rice. Monkey jumped up and nearly dropped his bowl. "You're not seeing things. It's just a chicken. Huh. Here's more food for us. Hey, be careful. Don't scare it." Shoo. A waiter took out a net from nowhere and sneakily moved closer to the tree. Xiao Mu was sitting beside Uncle Wong. When she heard someone say chicken, she had a bad premonition. Looking back, he saw Newbie squatting under the tree and cooing. Damn, how did it follow me? When Arbor went out, he deliberately did not bring this thing with him. He wanted to leave it at home, but it naturally disappeared after 3 days. Who would have thought that it would follow them here? And the problem was that it had been more than 4 days since she left. She had only used 3 summoning talismans. 1 talisman lasted for a day, so 3 talismans would allow it to stay by her side for 3 days. Why? It still existed? Chapter 262. Cuckoo. Weak Chicken vigilantly flapped its short wings as it watched the three humans who were trying to outflank the tree. Heh, did they think that it couldn't tell that the three words "my food" were written greedily in these three humans' eyes? Arbor face-bombed and speechlessly turned its small face away. She didn't need to look to foresee Monkey's three lamentable fates. Even she, a level 4 mystic cultivator, couldn't catch up to Weak Chicken, so those three fellows could forget about it. Ah, cuckoo! Clack! Weak Chicken suddenly jumped up as if its feathers were standing on end. It flapped its wings and dashed away, its long and slender claws practically as fast as lightning. A whirlwind blew past the three dumbstruck workers. Fuck. Was this the speed that a chicken could exhibit? The three workers turned around in unison, and one of them quickly walked forward with a net to catch Weak Chicken on the ground. Weak Chicken flapped its small wings and kicked the worker in the net with its long and slender claws. Don't be fooled by its slender and long claws. When it kicked the worker's back, it sent him, who was so big, flying into the air. A big horse fell to the ground, and before he could react, his head was stomped by two chicken feet. Bam, 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 bam. Weak Chicken flapped its wings and fiercely beat the worker's head. Darling Chow covered her eyes with one hand, practically unable to continue watching. Uncle Wong hastily jumped up and waved at the three workers, anxiously saying, come back, hurry and come back. How was this a freaking meat chicken to add to the meal? This was simply a violent beast. Monkey hastily ran forward with another person and dragged the pitiful person under the chicken's claws back with a mop. Along the way, the person was forcefully slapped by the chicken's wings several times, and the left side of his face was red and swollen. Cuckoo! Weak Chicken suddenly spread its wings at the crowd. Arbor's expression changed slightly, and she pushed aside a worker who was standing next to her. She roared at everyone, hurry and get out of the way. Everyone rolled and crawled in all directions. A water pillar, like a rainbow piercing through the moon, slid past the monkey with a whoosh and pierced through the old tree behind him, leaving behind a bowl-sized hole in the middle of the tree. The water column rushed past, and in less than a second, the tree split into pieces with a bang. The top half of the giant tree fell down and smashed towards the tents. There was a loud boom, and the entire ground trembled a few times. Xiao Mu's small face instantly turned pitch black after the tent she had set up was completely smashed. Get over here! Darling Xiao roared in fury. The Weak Chicken shrunk its neck, but it still braced itself and flapped its short wings, running in front of the child. Who allowed you to follow me? The child was so angry that he picked up a tree branch thicker than his thigh and threw it at the Weak Chicken. Don't run, you dead chicken. Who told you to get into trouble? Who told you to do bad things? Uncle Wong was speechless. He thought back to when City Lord Gu greeted him and smiled meaningfully at him. Don't be fooled by Miss Chiao's young age. You don't need to worry about anything on this journey. Now that he saw the little girl pick up such a thick tree branch effortlessly, Uncle Wong finally believed City Lord Gu's words. Clack! Cuckoo! The Weak Chicken flapped its wings vigorously, flying up and down in one moment. It jumped onto the monkey's head, scaring him to the ground. The next moment, it jumped onto the carriage and cooed on the roof. In the end, Darling Xiao was exhausted from the chase. Her little face flushed red, and she glared fiercely at the chicken. You! Hurry and disappear! The Weak Chicken sensibly raised a chicken claw in front of her. The golden summon character was engraved on it, and it sparkled in the night. Chapter 263. Bao Bao is so angry. God is too deceitful. After the talisman effect ended, no matter what kind of beast it was, whether it was an ordinary beast, a high-level mystical beast, or even a demonic beast, or even a demonic plant, any summoned creature should have disappeared along with the end of the time. Why didn't this chicken scram? The last time she summoned it, it only existed for a day and then scrammed. And this time, even if she used 3 summoning talismans, it only corresponded to 3 days. The talisman effect should have ended 3 days ago. Why didn't it scram? Little Xiao Mu was exhausted as she slumped on the mattress in the carriage. She didn't even want to look at a certain chicken that was also slumped beside her with its claws curled up. Master, Little master, what's this chicken's name? Usually, Arbor rarely let the little golem out in front of others to avoid that chatterbox monkey asking questions. She wasn't a talkative person. Only when everyone returned to their tents to sleep did little Xiao Mu let it out for a while. Seeing that little master was so tired that she didn't want to bother with it, the golem continued to make its presence known. Master, master, I'm called Big Bao. Is this chicken called Little Bao? Arbor crawled up from the mattress and reached out to hit the golem's head. Bah, your whole family is called Little Bao. No, your whole family isn't called Little Bao. Bao Bao was so angry. She shouldn't have talked to them. So long-winded, so annoying, so annoying. She might as well be alone and quiet. How can this chicken be called Little Bao? It has a body of blue feathers and is so ugly. I'll call it Da Ching in the future. No, what future? There was no future. Could it be that this thing couldn't disappear? The golem was secretly smug. So ugly. It's not as nice as Big Bao. Little Master definitely loves me the most. Sleep. Little Xiao Mu was so angry that she slumped back onto the mattress. She covered herself with the blanket from head to toe and rolled to the side of the carriage to sleep angrily. The next day, Arbor didn't wake up until the carriage moved slightly. She didn't think that she could sleep well after a night of anger. Her little head poked out of the blanket and met the eyes of that damn chicken. Why haven't you disappeared? This should be the 6th day. Little Xiao Mu pointed at the chicken with a strange look in her eyes. Coo. Weak little chicken raised its paw and pretended to show the word, summon. I don't want to see it. The child covered his eyes with one hand and suddenly jumped up from the carriage. His head hit the carriage with a dong sound, and he was in so much pain that tears were about to flow out. Little master, little master, little master, does it hurt? The golem shouted as it circled around her feet. Miss Little Xiao Mu. Hearing the commotion, Uncle Wang urged his horse to gallop to the side of the carriage. We have to leave the Mo Kingdom's borders before sunset. Let's continue on our way. Xiao Mu rubbed her small head and glared fiercely at the cowering weakling. Was it because she had used 3 summoning talismans in a row that the talisman's power and time did not match? This thought would eventually disappear after 4 days. Xiao Mu looked oddly at the weak chicken that had persisted for so many days without disappearing. She finally understood something. This little little Xiao Mu lowered her head and looked at the yellow summoning talisman for a while. She had a bad feeling. Could it be that she couldn't summon anything else but this little Xiao? We're entering the border of the Qiu Kingdom. Do you want to come out and take a look? Chapter 264. Upon hearing this, Arbor put away the yellow summoning talisman in her hand and lifted a corner of the curtain to look outside. As far as the eye could see, it was all yellow sand and thick soil. It looked hazy, and a few sparse houses could be faintly seen amidst the sand and dust. As expected, the western border wasn't as prosperous and wealthy as the Mo Kingdom. Arbor hopped off the carriage, and the chicken also flapped its wings and hopped to her side, its 2 slender and long claws clicking happily. The border town of the Qiu Kingdom is just up ahead. Uncle Wang led a horse and sighed in relief. Our journey here was quite smooth. Miss Qiao, let's go over now. Their journey had indeed been quite smooth, especially since they hadn't encountered a single zombie in the Mo Kingdom. Even Arbor found it inconceivable. However, when they exited the Mo Kingdom and entered the Liang Kingdom, they had encountered a small group of zombies. Fortunately, their convoy had escaped quickly, so they hadn't encountered the zombie squad to avoid wasting their energy fighting. The further west we go, the more careful Miss Qiao will be. Although the Qiu Kingdom is a small kingdom, the king is tyrannical and unscrupulous. The soldiers he raised also casually trample on the villagers. Uncle Wang sighed and shook his head. When we pass through Pony Town later, we will need to hand over some supplies. Miss Qiao, just sit in the carriage and don't make a sound. Xiao Mu nodded and then boarded the carriage again. Da Ching, that weak chicken, also hopped onto the carriage and sat down next to the child, miming to her. The carriage headed towards Pony Town at the border of the Qiu Kingdom. When they reached the entrance of the town, they naturally slowed down and caught up with the group passing through. There weren't many people lining up to pass through the Chiu Kingdom border. Most of the people in the northern part of Seikong Planet were concentrated in the Imo Kingdom. Other than the businessmen who came and went, very few ordinary refugees would flee to a small kingdom like the Chiu Kingdom to make a living. What are you doing? What are you holding? Give it to me. The soldier who was investigating directly snatched the basket from an elderly woman's hands, ignoring the objections of others. When he lifted the cover of the basket, the stench of salted fish assailed his nostrils. It was so fucking smelly, yet she treated it as a treasure. The soldier was so angry that he threw the basket to the ground. The old woman cried as she squatted down to pick up the salted fish that had rolled into the dust. The Chiu soldiers kicked her impatiently, and she rolled to the side. Scram! Line up properly, what are you looking at? The soldier's gaze landed on Uncle Wong's convoy, and a trace of greed flashed in his eyes. Come over here. The motorcade was coming. What are you transporting? Uncle Wong smiled as he handed over a small bag of beans. He whispered into the soldier's ear, Little brother, we are a trading company from the Imo Kingdom. We have an agreement with your country's Duanmu Trade Union to exchange goods. This is the exchange document between the two countries, as well as the certificate from Duanmu Trade Union. The soldier glanced at Uncle Wong and took the documents from him. He did not dare to make things difficult for him. After all, the Duanmu Trade Union was famous in the Chiu Kingdom. Even the great king of the Chiu Kingdom would tremble when the patriarch of the Duanmu family stomped his feet. A mere soldier like him naturally did not dare to make things difficult for a customer of the Duanmu Trade Union. However, this small bag of beans, which did not even weigh 5 caddies, was truly too little. If the brothers were to split it, they might not even get half a caddy. The soldier glanced askance at Uncle Wong. According to custom, we have to search the convoy. On the side, Monkey glared angrily at the soldier, but Uncle Wong pulled him to the side by his sleeve. He responded with a smile, Sir Soldier, please take a look. However, our young miss is in the first carriage, so please do not disturb her. Chapter 265. Swoosh. The soldier didn't care about what Uncle Wong said. He lifted the curtain of Arbor's carriage first. In an instant, he was met with a pair of cold and emotionless eyes. The eyes were like a dry well without any ripples. She looked at him as if she was looking at a corpse. He was clearly just a child sitting quietly in the carriage, but the moment he saw him, he gave the soldier a fright. You. The soldier took half a step back and was patted on the shoulder by another soldier behind him. What are you doing? The soldier who came later pushed aside the soldier in front and leaned over to take a look at Arbor. A strange look flashed through his eyes. The child sitting quietly in the carriage was young, but she sat upright and had a noble aura deep in her bones. Because it was the beginning of autumn, the child wore a black brocade cloak over her pink robes. Her snow-white face was already foreseeable that she would be a flawless beauty when she grew up. Yo, this little girl looks pretty good. The soldier licked his lips and carelessly touched the child's cold face. However, just as he stretched out his hand, Weak Chicken cooed and lowered its head to peck him fiercely. Ah! The soldier looked down and saw a bloody mark on his hand. His expression changed abruptly, and he glared fiercely at the carriage. He had been attracted by the child's cold and beautiful appearance and hadn't realized that there was a chicken in the carriage. Fuck! It's a chicken! The soldier's eyes turned green when he saw the chicken. He smacked his lips and said gruffly, Brothers, there's a chicken here. Let's catch it. It'll go well with wine tonight. The dozen or so soldiers cheered and laughed. They were all excited when they heard that there would be chicken to go well with wine tonight. Who knew how terrible their lives had been recently? Ever since zombies spread throughout the Chiu Kingdom, it was good enough to barely have 2 meals a day, let alone chicken, duck, and fish. Soldiers, you can't. Uncle Wong hurriedly went forward to stop them, but he was pushed aside by a soldier. Little girl, you'd better come down. The oily soldier maliciously extended his hand toward Xiaomu again. Arbor's eyes were extremely cold. Although she didn't like Weak Chicken, it didn't mean that any cat or dog could bully Weak Chicken. Newbie was her summoned creature, not someone else's dish. Therefore, this group of blind idiots could go to hell. Bam! A kick landed on the oily soldier's face. The other party was caught off guard. With a wail, he fell backward and landed heavily on the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. The two nearby soldiers also ate a mouthful of dust, and their faces were immediately filled with anger. One of them rushed forward and was about to lift the curtain again when he saw a small figure dart out of the carriage with a whoosh, and a fierce fist landed on his eye. His eyeballs almost flew out on the spot. Roar! The soldier covered his eyes and cried out in pain. He fell to the ground on his butt. Before he could see the situation in front of him clearly, he was suddenly slapped in the mouth by a slender chicken claw. He was stunned. The oily soldier that was the first to be kicked down by Xiao Mu strenuously crawled up from the ground and cursed angrily with a contorted face. He glared viciously at Xiao Mu and said, "Damn lass, you're quite capable. See if I don't sell you to a brothel after I catch you." Arbor's pitch-black eyes stared at the oily soldier. It was as if she could shoot a hole through him. Suddenly, she flew through the air and quickly arrived in front of the oily soldier. Arbor waved her hand, and a white light flashed between her fingers and the oily soldier's neck. Chapter 266. Oily soldier was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. If he hadn't taken a step back, the white light would have slashed his neck. How could this little girl be so ruthless? Unfortunately, that was only what he thought. He thought he had dodged death, but in the next instant, his neck was cleanly separated from his head. There was a thin line on his neck, and it took a while for blood to flow out. The soldiers all stopped in their tracks and looked at the little demon with fear in their eyes. They had never seen a child take someone's life the moment she attacked. How old was she? 7? 8? The people waiting in line had already scrambled to the sides of the road, not daring to make a sound. Arbor kicked away the soldier's corpse and coldly scanned the crowd. In the past, you've sold many little girls to places like the one he mentioned, right? He really did kick. It was as if he had kicked a pile of trash instead of a person. More than a dozen show soldiers were trembling in fear in front of a little girl. This was something they had not expected and could not have imagined. These people had dominated Ponytown for a long time. They had never thought that they would be defeated by a little girl one day. Looking at his companion's decapitated corpse on the ground, one of the soldiers forced himself to grit his teeth. He flashed the knife in his hand and angrily roared, "Everyone, let's attack together. She's just a little girl. Do you think we can let her go?" Upon hearing this, 4 to 5 sturdy Chou soldiers immediately ran over and brandished their shining sabers at Xiao Mu. A few young men from Uncle Wang's team wanted to help, but the remaining 7 or 8 soldiers rushed up and pressed them to the ground. The Chou soldiers were especially ruthless. They rushed up without a care and swung their clubs at the crowd. Not only did they injure the young men in the convoy, but they also injured the trembling commoners who were squatting on the side. An old man was too slow in retracting his leg and was hit. His leg bone immediately cracked, and he let out a pitiful cry. Arbor's eyes flashed with anger. He sneered, "You can't wait to die?" Several bodies securing talismans suddenly floated in front of the little girl. One by one, they split open on the soldiers' bodies. He immediately summoned a black ferrule from his mind and pointed it at the Chou soldiers who were frozen in place with their mouths wide open. "Then die obediently." Xiao Mu was like a sharp arrow that had been shot out. She swiftly circled around the soldiers, and wherever her ferrule passed by, several round heads slid down from their necks one by one. The 7 or 8 soldiers who were crazily beating up the commoners stopped in shock. One of them shouted towards the entrance of the town, his eyes filled with shock, "Quick, go and inform 5 Moon City's guard Hua. Enemy troops are invading." A Chou soldier who was watching the battle at the entrance of the small town immediately mounted his horse and rode into the town in a crooked manner. Enemy forces? Her? Xiao Mu was a bit dumbfounded as she poked her small face. Uncle Wang hurriedly ran over. "Miss Xiao, take advantage of the fact that there are no guards at the town's entrance. Quickly follow us into Duanmu Trade Union." As long as he went to Duanmu Trade Union, he would be fine. Duanmu Trade Union had great influence in the Chou Kingdom and definitely had the right to speak. Now that they had alerted 5 Moon City's guards, even if they turned back and ran towards the Liang Kingdom, they would be caught before long. Chapter 267. Unexpectedly, the little girl only shook her head. Uncle Wong, we're already in the Chou Kingdom. According to our agreement, you can leave first. She would not go with them to Duanmu Trade Union, nor would she implicate them. Since she had already chosen to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Chou soldiers, she did not want to let them off so easily. Of course, she was the one who started this, so she would bear all the consequences. Uncle Wong, go to Duanmu Trade Union with the others. I'm fine. Arbor urged Uncle Wong and the others to leave. Uncle Wong was unwilling. I promised the city lord that I would bring you safely to the Chou Kingdom. Brother Monkey, take Uncle Wong away. Don't worry, I'll be fine. If you stay here, I'll have to take care of you. The child curled her lips and said expressionlessly, Thank you for taking care of me along the way. We'll meet again if fate wills it. With that, she waved a few immobilization talismans and immediately froze the 7 or 8 horrified Chou soldiers on the spot. At this moment, Uncle Wong had also seen some signs. He had suspected that the child had an extraordinary background. Now that he saw her actions and thought of City Lord Gu's words, he did not hesitate anymore. The child's words made sense. If they continued to stay here, they might become a burden. Now, they had to take the opportunity to enter the town and seek protection from the Duanmu Trade Union. Only then would they be truly safe. The entrance to the town was in chaos. The citizens in line followed Uncle Wong's caravan and hurriedly entered the town. None of them dared to linger. In the end, the entrance to the town was empty except for Arbor. Of course, that was if one ignored the 8 Chou soldiers kneeling at the entrance with their hands tied behind their backs. The weak chicken trotted to Xiao Mu's side with its slender and long claws, and it gracefully squatted down beside her. Arbor glanced at it, but did not say anything. The weak chicken turned its head and looked at the child. Coo coo, it cooed. A group of Chou soldiers appeared in Pony Town. There were about 100 of them. 5 Moon City's guards would not arrive so quickly. This was probably the town's overall defense force. The tiny Chou Kingdom only had 1 main city and 2 smaller cities. It wasn't even 1% the size of the northern Emo Kingdom. However, since it was located at the western border, it served as a great barrier against the barbarian tribes in the west. Furthermore, trade was very frequent, so the upper echelons of the Emo Kingdom allowed the existence of this barrier. Otherwise, such a small country with no sense of existence would have been annexed hundreds of years ago. Therefore, when he received the news of an enemy invasion, Pony Town's deputy garrison was truly shocked. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't understand why they were suddenly attacked. Lianghua did it? Or was it the state of Zhao? Or perhaps, the Emo Kingdom? The deputy garrison leader's gaze fell outside the town. His pupils constricted at first, and then they were filled with confusion. There was a little girl sitting at the entrance of the town. She was about 7 or 8 years old. She held a black ferrule in her hand and gently tapped it against her palm. Who are you? The deputy didn't dare to act rashly. He reined in his horse and stood still. Without waiting for the child to speak, a coo sound was heard. Weak Chicken suddenly stood up, shook its short wings, and waddled in front of everyone. The deputy garrison leader and the soldiers were all dumbfounded. What was this chicken doing? Xiaomu also jumped up before taking out a handful of talismans. Weak Chicken cooed, and all its feathers stood on end. With a splash, a pillar of water swept into the group like a torrent. The group was immediately scattered. Many soldiers rolled and fell in the water. Chapter 268. This time, Arbor froze on the spot in a daze. He really didn't expect this weak chicken to suddenly jump out and fly into a rage. This mouthful of water was really good. Arbor's eyes curved. He was about to praise the weak chicken, which he rarely did, when he turned his head to look. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch inexplicably. The weak chicken's current actions were rather strange, but looking at it lying on the ground and shaking its butt non-stop, that wretched appearance was really unbearable to look at. On the other side, the deputy garrison was helped up from the ground with a dark face. He was drenched from head to toe, looking like a drowned rat. When he got up, the deputy garrison's feet slipped, and he managed to stabilize himself with great difficulty. He turned his head and berated his soldiers to regroup. A bunch of cowards. So many people couldn't even handle a chicken. The deputy garrison roared, "Hurry up! Hurry up!" When he turned his head to look at the chicken, he couldn't help but be stunned as well. This chicken, what was it doing? It kept shaking its butt and using its claws to dig a hole in the ground. Its butt kept rubbing against the hole. Was it trying to start a fire on its own? Or was it fucking constipated? Sir, this chicken fiend is very strange. A soldier stretched out a finger and pointed at the weak chicken as he spoke in a genteel manner. Nonsense. Can't I see that there's something strange about this chicken? Who would normally raise a chicken that could spray water so far? Not only did it wash over 100 of them, but it also drenched them all. What an outrageous chicken. The deputy guard slapped away the arrogant soldier with a slap. All of you. The deputy garrison stretched out his hands and gestured for them to charge forward. All of you, go. Capture it alive for me. See if I don't kill it alive and steam, fry, and fry it. Coo. The weak chicken raised its head and looked at the deputy garrison with a cute and innocent face. The deputy garrison felt like he had seen a ghost. Why did he feel like this damn chicken seemed to understand what he was saying? Go. The deputy garrison shook his sleeves, and a bunch of soldiers behind him roared and rushed toward the weak chicken that was digging a hole in the middle. Xiaomu stood behind weak chicken and couldn't help but raise her hand to cover her face. Newbie had been digging a hole. Could it be that it was digging a coffin for itself and jumping in to bury itself? Screech. Suddenly, weak chicken let out a long and clear cry that tore through the sky. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the weak chicken's body was undergoing a strange transformation. It kept rubbing its butt, and its sharp tail feathers kept extending and extending. A wisp of blue light suddenly bloomed all over its body. Its pair of pitifully short wings suddenly spread out, leaving behind a gorgeous shadow. When it spread out, it was at least 10 meters long, and its green wings stretched straight to the horizon. Xiaomu was dumbstruck and subconsciously blinked her eyes. Compared to the young master's dumbfounded expression, the deputy garrison guard and his men were the most terrified. They wished they could poke their own eyes out for comfort. Chicken? Chicken my ass. What kind of chicken was this? Who could tell them that this big bird with beautiful wings and green eyes, which part of it looked like a chicken? If slapping themselves 3 times could make them think that everything in front of them was a dream, they would be more than happy to slap themselves in the face. Sir, this is a divine bird, right? Do I need you to spout nonsense? This isn't a chicken, anyone can tell. Screech. The green bird flapped its super huge wings and suddenly rushed into the air, circling above everyone. The deputy garrison guard was so scared that he fell on his butt, his old face dark. Chapter 269. Shriek. The cyan bird shrieked, and its circling figure abruptly swooped down from the sky. The deputy guard was so frightened that his face turned pale, and he scrambled to run backward. Run, run. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Heavy rain suddenly poured down from the sky. The scary thing was that the rainwater turned into ice cubes of various sizes halfway through and smashed into the heads of the Cho soldiers running for their lives. Fuck. The soldiers who were hit all fell to the ground with their heads broken and bleeding. They cried bitterly as they scrambled away. Some of the more timid ones were so frightened that they fell to the ground and foamed at the mouth. Shriek. While the cyan bird was attacking the crowd, a large group of soldiers led by 5 Moon Town's Gardhua swiftly ran toward the town's entrance. From afar, Gardhua and his group saw the large cyan bird circling in the sky. Its wings almost covered the entire sky. Its body was so huge that it caused the hearts of Gardhua and the others to skip a beat. Did some nearby kingdom bring a large group of mystic cultivators and mystic beasts to attack? Release the arrows. Gardhua roared. He raised his hand, and the thousands of soldiers below raised their bows and shields and lined up in formation. Aoye's expression changed. and he suddenly appeared beside the little girl. He pursed his lips and called out. In an instant, dozens of black figures rushed over and landed behind Aoyi. The little guy turned around and looked at the youth who stayed up all night with a dumbfounded expression. Shuei's eyes were filled with a strange expression. Today was so lively. First, the weak chicken ascended to the heavens. Then, Aoyi attracted so many people. If Aoyi hadn't taken the initiative to tell them to show themselves, the child wouldn't have noticed so many people lurking around her. Every one of these youths in black had cultivation auras that were no weaker than Aoyi's. Why was it like this? Since when were level 10 mystic cultivators as common as cabbages on Seacone planet? As expected, poverty limited one's imagination. Thinking back to her previous life, she simply couldn't come into contact with this magnificent level. Moreover, how weak was she that she couldn't reach the standard of a level 10 mystic cultivator until her death? No wonder she was tortured to death without any room to retaliate. She wanted to increase her cultivation. She wanted to advance. She wanted to work hard to become stronger. The youth's gazes fell on the little girl in the middle. The little girl was clenching her small fists with a strange expression on her face. She clenched her fists forcefully again and again, making a comical gesture. What happened to Miss? Stay Up Late was speechless as he looked at the child. Inside, however, he was smiling. It was rare to see Miss so full of life. It was really good. He didn't know what had touched the depths of her cold heart. When the little stoic returned to her senses, she discovered that her actions were very strange. With a stoic face, she calmly retracted her small hand and turned to look in the direction where the thousands of arrows were simultaneously released. Release the arrows. Behind Gardhua, hundreds of thousands of arrows flew out and shot towards the blue bird in the sky. The little girl's face changed. She stomped the ground and tried to run, but Stay Up Late grabbed her arm. Young miss, wait. Screech. The blue bird flew up in midair, bringing with it a ray of blue light. In the blink of an eye, all the arrowheads in front of it were sucked in. At this time, it was as if time had stopped, and all the arrowheads stopped in front of the green bird. Gardhua looked at the sky in horror and abruptly berated his subordinates. Retreat. Everyone retreat. Retreat. All of you rascals, listen carefully. The one who will take your lives today is me. My name is Qingwan. I was born from heaven and earth. Screech. After the stern screech, countless motionless arrowheads uniformly changed directions and violently shot towards Gardhua's army. Chapter 270. Gardhua and his men ran into the town, scared witless. They scrambled to find cover to block the arrows. However, the arrows came too suddenly. The Chiu soldiers had no time to react. At least half of them were injured by the arrows. They fell to the ground and wailed in terror. Xiao Mu's face was filled with shock. After a while, she pulled her gaze away from the scattered Chiu soldiers. She looked up at the sky and suddenly heard a low cry. The blue bird quickly flew in front of her. Before she could react, she felt her body lighten. She was thrown onto the bird's back, and it rose into the air. The child knelt on the bird's back in a daze and looked down. Gardhua was hiding in the crowd. He was furious. With the help of a few people, he managed to climb up the town's observation tower and ordered the soldiers to use the large crossbows to shoot the blue bird in the sky. These large crossbows were powerful and had a long range. However, they had an obvious weakness. They were slow to load. Gardhua's expression was vicious. He didn't order the soldiers to aim at the blue bird, but the child on its back. However, just as he moved, Aoyi's sword was pressed against his neck. Gardhua didn't even see the figure clearly. All he saw was dozens of black figures quickly climb up and occupy the observation tower. With a few slashes, they slit the throats of the surrounding Chiu soldiers. Blood dripped down the high platform. Below, thousands of soldiers raised their spears and machetes and surrounded the entire observation tower. Aoyi's sword lightly touched Gardhua's neck. Gardhua felt as if a venomous snake had slithered up his neck. It was so cold that his entire body trembled. What are you doing? Obediently retreat, and I'll leave your corpse intact. With that, he took out a token and waved it in front of Guard Hua coldly. Guard Hua's pupils constricted. If not for the fact that he was being held by someone, he would have collapsed to the ground already. This was the personal token of the Emo Kingdom's crown prince. Why did it turn out like this? Why did it provoke someone like the crown prince of the northern Emo Kingdom? Guard Hua was sweating profusely. He had no idea what was going on. Move quickly. Tell your men to stop shooting arrows and throwing stones. Otherwise, it will be seen as a provocation. You won't be able to withstand the wrath of the crown prince. Stay Up Late pressed his sword against Guard Hua's neck. At the same time, the blue bird circling in the sky used its huge wings to fan a gust of wind, suddenly knocking down all the stones and arrows that were shot into the air. The Chiu soldiers howled in agony. They were no match for the bluebird. Guard Hua hurriedly shouted, "Stop the attack! Stop!" Screech. The bluebird flapped its huge wings and glided across the vast blue sky. In an instant, it disappeared before everyone's eyes. Stay Up Late slid his sword across Guard Hua's neck and tossed his corpse off the watchtower. The Chiu soldiers reached out to catch Guard Hua's falling corpse. They were all leaderless and fearful as they looked up at the dozens of black-clothed youths with powerful auras on the observation deck. Go back and tell your great king to properly inventory a batch of supplies and send it to Miss Chiao from the Holy Water Sect's first peak as compensation for your offensive words. If the compensation isn't in place within 3 days. Stay Up Late narrowed his cold eyes. You don't want to know the consequences of offending our crown prince. After throwing down these harsh words, the group of black-clothed youths immediately left. They naturally didn't care about the Chiu soldiers' wails below. Chapter 271. Miss Chiao had no idea that her classmate, Aoyi, had asked her for compensation. She sat on Blue Phoenix's back, her face hurting from the strong wind. Then, he activated the eggshell defensive barrier, blocking out the wind that was blowing against his face. Xiaomu pursed her lips and knelt on Blue Phoenix's back with a serious expression. She placed her hands on her knees and sat upright. Although Blue Phoenix's flying speed was astonishing, it was very stable. It flew out of Chiu's largest city, Five Moon City, in a flash. It retracted its wings and landed outside the city. However, they were too eye-catching as they flew through Chiu's borders, causing a commotion in Five Moon City. However, no one chased after them, and Xiaomu didn't want to know the reason. Right now, she was so angry that her stomach was about to explode. She looked up and saw large stretches of undulating mountain ranges. They were covered in snow all year round. That should be the snowy mountain that her master had mentioned. After Qing Luan landed on the ground, it put her down and retracted its pair of long wings. Its entire body shrank. At this moment, Qing Luan had completely transformed into a fluffy little chick. If its blue feathers were to turn yellow, then it would truly be a little yellow chick. The little chick flapped its short wings and flew to Arbor's shoulder. It nuzzled its head against her neck, purely to show its goodwill. However, the flattery backfired. Arbor immediately punched Weak Chick. Her face darkened as she chased after Weak Chick, who was flapping its wings wildly. "I'll beat you to death." Xiaomu angrily chased after it and gave it a good beating. Newbie was so scared that it cooed and kept flapping its little wings to run away pitifully. "Come here." This damn chick still dared to pretend to be weak and cute. She would beat it to death. Hee, it had just defeated so many people, and now it was still pretending. Why didn't it ascend to heaven? No, it had already ascended to heaven. Coo. The little chick ran quickly. It flapped its short wings and flew up and down. One adult and one chick, one human and one chick, dashed up the mountain path. The little chick suffered 2 punches on its head. After being roared at by the child, it pathetically stopped running. It folded its wings and curled up on a rock, lowering its head to admit its guilt. The child who had been chasing after them had a flushed face and was panting heavily. "You, Master, why did you hit me?" Little Chick asked with a face full of confusion. "I really don't understand Master's world." He thought that if he revealed his true form and revealed his strength, Master would definitely like him. However, the reality was so spicy that it made people sad. Are you still going to pretend? The child scolded, and his little hands unconsciously went to his waist. He said angrily, "If you don't pretend, you scammer. Do I need to be jolted on the road for more than 10 days? You should be able to fly there in a few hours." Coo. Little Chick's face was filled with confusion. Fuck your sister. He obviously knew how to speak, yet he pretended not to understand. The kid was so angry that he grabbed a tree branch and swung it at the little chick. Coo. Coo. Little Chick flew all the way up the mountain along the snowy white path. Coo. Little Chick stopped, and Arbor also stopped. Many people had appeared on the mountain path ahead. They were lining up along the main mountain path. When Xiaomu looked up, she could vaguely see a magnificent mountain gate. The 3 words Holy Water Sect were engraved on it. However, what was up with these people lining up? Chapter 272. Excuse me, Uncle. Annie. Sister-in-law. Hey. Hey. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. The little fellow had short legs and a small body, so she was stuck in the sea of people. Seriously, it was almost impossible to fish her out. The adults who were patted all turned their heads and looked down. Only then did they see a scowling little girl running past their waists. This child. Stop. Child. Why are you cutting the line? Line up at the back. Right, line up. Don't think you can cut the line just because you're young. We've been lining up here for a long, long time. That's right. This child doesn't have any etiquette at all. Back, line up. Xiaomu was immediately blocked by several aunties on the mountain path. She tilted her head and looked at the holy water sect in the distance. It was at least 1,000 steps away. Every step on the winding mountain path was packed with people of all ages. For some reason, the line was so long that she couldn't see the end of it. Speaking of which, why was she cutting the line when she was returning to her own sect? Xiaomu took a step back and looked at the aunties and sisters-in-law blocking her way with wide eyes. She couldn't help but frown. Why are you lining up here? Hey, this child. You're still acting like you don't know what's going on. Oh, you're so young, but you're quite scheming. Then why did you come here? An older sister-in-law said to Xiaomu with a glare as she clutched a shy 12-year-old girl next to her. I came to find my master. Xiaomu impatiently tried to squeeze through the crowd. Stop. Who didn't come to find master? That's right. This child is too. Where are your parents? They didn't bring you to line up. Another auntie angrily scanned Arbor while holding her 8 or 9-year-old granddaughter's hand. You also came to find master? Shit. Morong Sun kept saying that she was exceptionally talented and would only have her as her last disciple in her life. Morong Sun cried and begged to carry her back to the sect, and even used that mystical treasured land to lure her back. What was going on now? So many people came to find her. She actually took in so many disciples? Big liar. Liar. My master took you in? That's impossible. These aunties didn't look like mystic cultivators. Why did master take them in? Bring her back to do laundry, cook, and mop the floor? What are you talking about? Didn't you also come for the Holy Water Sect's annual opening ceremony to accept disciples? At this moment, there were even more people surrounding her. All the older sisters-in-law reached out to block Xiaomu's path. He surrounded a short child and scolded, "You're even calling him master. Who is your master?" My master is First Peak's Morong Sun, the little stoic said seriously. Pooh! Ha 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 ha. The onlookers were actually laughing. Yo, this child, at such a young age, even knows about Peak Master Morong of the First Peak. This is too funny. Peak Master Morong hasn't accepted a personal disciple for so many years. He can't even come up with a better lie. That's right. It would be more believable if you told us that the second Peak's Peak Master Yang or the third Peak's Peak Master Lu is your master. Ahahaha. The crowd burst into laughter as if they were watching a joke, and Arbor was speechless for a moment. Caw. The little chick, who was squatting on Arbor's shoulder, suddenly jumped as if it was about to explode. Arbor hastily reached out to grab the little Saiyan chick. These aunties and uncles were just a bit bored and had bad mouths, But they weren't like those Cho soldiers who wouldn't shrink from any crime. They couldn't withstand Qingluan's icy breath. Chapter 273. The child hugged a chick and looked adorable, but her face was a bit stoic and did not have much of an expression. Anyway, don't cut the line. Go line up. A plump woman pouted and waved her hand at Arbor. Arbor turned to look at the mountain gate that seemed to stretch to the horizon and sighed in her heart. Why didn't she see a single senior sister? Opening the mountain gate and accepting disciples was such a big event, so there should be many disciples coming out to receive them. Where were eldest senior sister and second senior sister? She didn't see the senior sisters she was familiar with from second and third peaks either. Xiaomu looked down at the red carp jade pendant in her hand. Murong Sun tossed her the sect token before she left, and the words First Peak were engraved on the back of the jade pendant. If she randomly met a senior sister and showed it to her, it should be enough, right? Xiaomu looked up and saw a little girl in red about 10 years old waving at her from the top of the stairs 20 steps ahead of her. Soon, a blue-clothed maidservant ran down and pulled Xiaomu's hand. She said to the aunties around them, "This is our family's child. Sorry, make way, make way." That maidservant pulled Xiaomu's hand and squeezed her way back to the little girl in red. "Little sister, are you okay?" The little girl patted Arbor's shoulder and smiled at her, revealing a small dimple on her left cheek. Xiaomu woodenly shook her head. "You're also here to participate in the Holy Water Sect's entrance test, right? Don't be scared. Just stay by my side." "You? Are you also from the nearby Chiu Kingdom?" The little girl in red was dressed in a neat riding outfit, but she was valiant and formidable at such a young age. It did not seem like she was from the Chiu Kingdom. "No." The little girl shook her head. "We're from the Alava tribe in the west. I'm Doya. What about you? What's your name?" "And my name is Arbor," the little stoic answered. However, she thought, Holy Water Sect's entrance test is such a big event, so it must have spread all over the world. No wonder there are so many people lining up here. Doya smiled, and the dimple on her left cheek deepened. She reached out to rub the little stoic's frozen face. "Little sister, don't pull a long face. It should be our turn to be tested very soon." Then, as Miss Doya had said, it should be very soon. Damn, it was not until the sun had set in the west that they finally saw 2 or 3 people in front of them. It was almost their turn to be tested. Xiaomu was so depressed that she wanted to squat on the floor and draw circles. After queuing for so long, he finally saw his own sect. If he had known earlier, he would have asked his senior sisters for a sect messaging talisman. "Stretch out your left hand." 2 female disciples were sitting in front of the mountain gate. They had set up a long table. At this time, the sky was slightly dark, but the rows of stone troughs on both sides of the mountain gate were already burning with raging flames, clearly reflecting everyone's faces. Arbor glanced at them and found that she didn't know any of the 2 female disciples who were sitting or those who were standing behind them. But that was to be expected. The only Holy Water Sect disciples she knew were the 7th Fairy's daughters. They were the top disciples of their peaks, so they probably wouldn't do such a boring reception job. Darling Xiao made up her mind to flash her identity token when she went up later. How could there be such a scam like returning to the sect? However, wasn't the Holy Water Sect's test a bit too sloppy? The senior sister just now had a 9-year-old girl stretch out her hand and then poured a drop of water into her hand from a jade bottle. Several seconds later, she took back that drop of water and expressionlessly said, "You didn't pass. Next." Chapter 274. Several little girls who went up in succession failed and ran down while sobbing and covering their faces. Doya and Arbor looked at each other in bewilderment. Doya couldn't resist asking, "I wonder how that water droplet is tested? Why is it immediately tested after dripping a drop of water on it?" Who the hell knew what kind of lousy test this was? Xiao Mu's face was stoic, but she couldn't deny her disdain for her sect. Wasn't this a waste of time? Dripping a drop of water on each of them was considered a test? If this happened to her, she might not be able to pass this crazy test. Next, Doya suddenly gripped Arbor's small hand tightly. She took a deep breath and quickly walked up. A drop of water landed on Doya's left palm. A few seconds later, the water droplet actually rolled back and forth in Doya's palm, emitting a soft glow. This glow was held in Doya's palm as if she was holding a wisp of bright moonlight, illuminating her spotlessly white and flawless face. It was very beautiful. Xiaomu dazedly stared at that glow. Whoa, this water droplet really had a bit of a name. Previously, no one reacted because that water droplet looked down on them. The two Holy Water Sect senior sisters behind the long table revealed faint smiles and nodded at Doya. Very good. Pass and stand behind us. Oh, so the four girls standing behind the two Holy Water Sect senior sisters had passed the test. Wow, including Doya, there were only 5 people. There had probably been over 10,000 people tested earlier. Only 5 out of 10,000 people. This probability was too low. Doya's dimples deepened as she smiled. She turned around and gestured for Xiao Mu to work hard before excitedly standing behind the two senior sisters. Next, the two Holy Water Sect senior sisters were startled when they saw Xiao Mu walking up. Wasn't this child too young? Many people surged up the steps behind them and squeezed between the first and second steps to watch the test. They all whispered to each other and asked about the test. When they saw the child, the women who were blocking her earlier all pursed their lips in disdain. This child is so young. She definitely won't pass. That's right. If it was that easy to pass, so many people wouldn't have been eliminated. Xiaomu bounced in front of her two senior sisters and reached out to touch the red fish jade pendant in her pocket. Stretch out your left hand. You don't need both hands, one of the senior sisters said softly. Yes, don't be nervous. It won't hurt. The other senior sister also nodded, thinking that Arbor was so nervous that he didn't know where to put his hands and feet. Xiaomu was speechless. What's wrong? There are still so many people who haven't finished the test yet. Master. The two female disciples stood up at the same time and bowed respectfully to the person who had come. The newcomer looked to be around 26 or 27 years old. She was dressed in a purple dress with purple bamboo embroidered on the hem. She had a smile on her face and looked like she wouldn't keep a straight face no matter who she met. It's fine. You guys continue. Master is just here to take a look. The second Peak's Peak Master, Yang Shirong, covered her mouth and smiled. In an instant, murmurs could be heard from all directions. All the sisters-in-law and uncles who were holding on to their children became excited. This was the second Peak's Peak Master Yang. If she saw how outstanding their children were during the test, she would definitely take them in as her disciple immediately. All right, let's begin the test. Little sister, stretch out your left hand. Xiaomu had a puzzled look on her face. She had just taken out the jade pendant from her pocket when her left hand was pulled over. A drop of ice-cold water that seeped into her bones dripped onto her small palm. Suddenly, the drop of water emitted a bright and flawless light in the child's palm. A blinding white light spread out from her palm. Compared to Doya's faint soft light from before, this was what it meant to be truly radiant. In an instant, it cut through the night and illuminated the surroundings. Chapter 275. Yang Shirong's eyes widened in shock. The gentle expression that had never changed for 10,000 years had long since disappeared. What replaced it was shock. Shock. And shock again. Here, quick, give her another drop. Yang Shirong's eyes narrowed in excitement as she stared at the child who was standing there dumbstruck, as if she was afraid that the child would be taken away immediately. Hanhe hurriedly got up and walked quickly to the child. She gently pulled the child's left hand and dripped another drop of water onto her palm. In a daze, everyone's vision was taken away by a blinding white light. Nothing in the world could block the blinding light. It was only when the 2 drops of water slowly seeped into the skin of the child's palm that the terrifying and dazzling light gradually faded away. Yang Shirong's mouth was agape for less than a second before she pounced on the child like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. The child was startled and her eyes widened as she subconsciously took a few steps back. But how could she be a match for Peak Master Yang? Peak Master Yang hugged her tightly and pulled her into her arms. Good disciple, quickly follow Master back to the second peak. Master and disciple are indeed fated to meet even though we're thousands of miles apart. Look, it's already so late, but Master can still bring you back. Huh. Master's trip here was not in vain. Yang Shirong hugged the child tightly in her arms, as if she was hugging a precious treasure. The child uttered a few syllables. Master, am I? Hey, good disciple, don't speak. It's already so late, and you must be tired. Master will bring you back to the second peak to rest. Then, without waiting for the child to speak, she flew away with a whoosh. Her speed was so fast that it was as if something was chasing after her. Why was it so bright just now? Could it be that the divine water has a particularly large reaction to someone? Sui floated past. A cold and beautiful woman suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Greetings, Uncle Master. Han He and Lu Yun recovered from their shock and hurriedly bowed. Who's so talented? To be able to emit such a dazzling light, this was something that had never happened before. Han He said, yes, it's a disciple that Master just took in. Master has already brought her back to the second peak. Lu Yun snorted heavily. Han He didn't even dare to tell Martial Uncle Lu that the little junior sister whom Master had snatched away just now had such astonishing talent that she had actually absorbed 2 drops of God's water into her body. TSK, if you want to take in a disciple, then so be it. It's as if you want to snatch him away. You didn't even show your face and snatched him back to the second summit. A mocking voice followed. She didn't even need to see who it was. She knew it was eldest Aunt Master Morong Sun just by hearing that carefree smile. Greetings to Martial Uncle Morong. Morong Sun casually waved her hand. This peak master merely saw the commotion here, so I came to join in the fun. It's nothing special, so go about your business. After she finished speaking, she leaned against the long table with a smile on her face and winked at Han He as she said, Little He Z, what kind of disciple did your master take in just now? He ran away in such a hurry. It's not like it can't be exposed. That junior sister with great talent. Morong Sun was displeased when she heard this. She snorted and turned her head away while waving her hand. No matter how talented she is, she's not as talented as my youngest disciple. Your master picked up a pretty good one and treated her like a treasure. In the future, I'll let her experience what it means to truly have outstanding talent and be as smart and adorable as snow. Chapter 276. Lu Yun abruptly harumphed and looked behind Han He. These are the ones who passed the test? Yes, Aunt Master. Lu Yun waved her hand at Doya and the short girl next to her. The 2 girls' faces flushed with excitement, and they immediately ran over. What are your names? Follow me back to third peak. Doya immediately smiled, revealing her deep dimples. She hastily nodded and said, Master, this disciple's name is Doya? This disciple's name is Zhang Yu. The girl called Zhang Yu was half a head shorter than Doya, but she was chubby and much wider than Doya. Her grape-like eyes swiveled around, looking very clever and quick-witted. Yes, you 2 will follow me back to third peak. Lu Yun nodded aloofly. Wait, you little fellow. Morong Sun's figure swayed, and she arrived in front of Zhang Yu, lifting her off the ground. Lu Yun's aloof face darkened, and she glanced at Morong Sun. Senior sister Morong, what are you doing? I'll take these 2 disciples. You can do whatever you want with the rest. Morong Sun rolled her eyes at Lu Yun. I've already taken in a closed-door disciple, so I won't take in disciples in the future. What did she care about? Compared to her stoic-faced disciple, these, and these were all too lacking in aptitude. They simply couldn't enter her eyes. Greetings, Aunt Master Morong. Zhang Yu, who was being carried by Morong Sun, said with trepidation. Don't call me Aunt Master yet. Morong Sun narrowed her eyes and shook Zhang Yu in her hand. You brat, you still want to trick me? You're a boy, right? Her words stirred up 1,000 ripples. The spectators were all dumbfounded. They had yet to recover from the news that a child who appeared to be 7 or 8 years old had just passed the Holy Water Sect's bizarre test in a high-profile manner, and was carried away by Second Peak's Peak Master Yang like a treasure. At this moment, they were struck dumb by this wave. What? Everyone in the world knew that Holy Water Sect did not accept male disciples. Could it be that this child planned to disguise herself as a girl and sneak into Holy Water Sect? Zhang Yu started sobbing and whining delicately. I'm not a boy. I'm not a boy. Murong Sun thoughtfully glanced at Zhang Yu and sarcastically said, How about you take off your pants? Why don't I take off your pants? Zhang Yu's face immediately turned red. The surrounding crowd was fired up, and they all scolded. A boy like you actually wants to sneak into the Holy Water Sect? Isn't that so? How did the adults in your family teach your children? How could they even think of something as ridiculous as cross-dressing? Isn't this taking up a slot? Seriously, by the looks of it, a peak master would at most take in 1 or 2 disciples. Yet, this brat wanted to snatch a spot. This was simply unforgivable. At this moment, a rotund middle-aged man jumped out from the crowd and pointed at the crowd angrily. You talk too much. My son clearly passed the test. How can you not let him enter the school? My son has been raised like a little girl since he was young. You can just treat him like a little girl. Besides, he had clearly passed the test. No, you can't throw us out. You can't throw him out. The fat middle-aged man was already held up by 2 female disciples. He stomped his 2 short legs and roared angrily. Our dear Zhang Yu even hugged Murong Sun's arm and wailed loudly, continuously wiping away his tears. Aunt Master, accept me, accept me. I'm a miss, I'm a miss. Murong Sun. Lu Yun. Everyone. What an odd pair of father and son. Unheard of, unseen. Chapter 277. Murong Sun did not know whether to laugh or cry as she waved her hand. Invite them down the mountain. The first rule of the Holy Water Sect was that they did not accept male disciples. Even if you could say something nice, it was still not allowed. Little Zhang Yu wept as he slid down the ground. Adhering to the principle of hugging someone's thigh, he tightly hugged Murong Sun's leg and refused to let go. Aunt Master, take me in, Aunt Master. The little fellow thumped his chest and stomped his feet as he wailed. Murong Sun. How did this Peak Master meet such a weirdo like you? Third Peak's Peak Master Lu's expression was a bit awkward. She hastily picked another little girl and led her back to Third Peak with Doya. Murong Sun glared at Lu Yun's fleeing figure and harumphed. She forcefully pulled that weirdo off of her. Why aren't you sending the father and son down the mountain yet? Murong Sun was not in the mood to continue watching the test, so she swiftly left this place in a flash. As expected, her disciple was the least annoying when it came to children. She liked them just looking at them. As for our dear Xiao Mu, how could she have known that the entrance to the mountain would be so lively after the event? She also did not know that her unreliable master, Murong Sun, had come. Halfway through being carried back by Second Peak's Peak Master, Yang Shirong, she felt all the mystic energy in her mystic meridians roiling endlessly. This feeling was very similar to she was about to advance. Previously, she had been stuck at the initial success stage of level 4 mystic cultivation and had been stuck for a long time without any movement. So what was this inexplicable situation? Although she could sense a very dense mystic energy aura as soon as she entered the Holy Water Sect, wasn't this too ridiculous? She had not even meditated to cultivate yet, so why did it feel like she was about to advance? Xiaomu quickly collected her thoughts and opened her dantian. She saw that her mystic meridian, which was originally hidden under the tree roots and securely wrapped by countless roots, was now exposed and endlessly absorbing the mystic energy roaming through her mystic meridians. Milky white mystic energy was rapidly flowing through her mystic meridians, which were different from all the other meridians in her body. Her mystic meridians swelled slightly and slowly expanded. Arbor could sense that her mystic meridians were slowly thickening with this subtle expansion. Her mystic meridians that were originally half a finger wide had now gradually expanded to be close to a finger wide. The widening of her profound veins meant that her profound veins would be able to accept even more profound energy, and her cultivation speed would definitely be much faster than before. My dear disciple, you're about to break through. Peak Master Yang exclaimed. He hurriedly landed on the second peak with the child in his arms. Arbor didn't even have time to take a look at what the second summit was like before he was quickly brought to the second summit by Yang Shirong, to the cultivation room with the densest profound energy. Disciple, don't worry. Master is right outside. Focus on advancing, don't be impatient. Also, don't rise too quickly all of a sudden. Maintain a steady state of mind. As cultivators, we must have a limit in our hearts and a bottom line. Advancing to a certain level is enough, even if there is still energy left over. This child looked like she didn't have any cultivation just now, so how did she suddenly display the cultivation of a level 4 mystic cultivator? How would Yang Shirong know that due to the fact that he was about to advance? The profound energy in Arbor's body was flowing so violently that it directly dispersed the aura concealing Talisman's power. After the cultivation room closed, Yang Shirong was still worried and paced back and forth outside. The child looked too young, so she didn't even know if she understood what she said just now. Yang Shirong was worried that the child would be too excited and directly advance without any obstructions. This definitely wouldn't be beneficial to her future cultivation. 2 drops of sacred water had been absorbed into the child's body, so the effect of her advancement would definitely be very terrifying. She hoped everything would go smoothly. Chapter 278. Our dear Arbor felt very baffled. She simply didn't expect that the opportunity for her advancement this time was related to those 2 strange drops of water just now. She only thought that it was because the holy water sect's mystic energy was so dense that her stagnant realm suddenly loosened up. Arbor sat in the cultivation room and held her breath. She immediately sensed the endless mystic energy pouring in from the outside and entering her mystic domain through her rapidly agitating mystic meridians at a terrifying speed. The sapling Chochio in her dantian happily extended its branches and hurriedly absorbed the mystic energy continuously pouring in from the outside world. It sucked in mouthfuls at a speed not inferior to Arbor's absorption speed as it fought over mystic energy with its little master. Our dear Xiaomu, who had long been accustomed to the deceptive tree bandits' methods, could already turn a blind eye to it and not care in the slightest. Right now, she only felt a bit shaken. The mystic energy rapidly flowing in her mystic meridians was rushing into her mystic domain at a jaw-dropping speed. The barrier to the initial success stage of level 4 mystic cultivator was broken through in an instant. Our dear Xiaomu quickly experienced what was called an abnormal advancement method. She watched helplessly as the barrier to the phenomenal success stage of level 4 mystic cultivator, and even the peak stage, was broken through, and she triumphantly advanced all the way to level 5 mystic cultivator. This kind of advancement speed caused Arbor to become vigilant. She looked inside her body again and saw that other than the milky white mystic energy continuously surging in her mystic meridians that were close to the width of a finger, there were also strands of an unknown silver substance that floated back and forth in her mystic meridians. Compared to the dense mystic energy, these strands of silver were pitifully few. However, Arbor's brows furrowed slightly. In her previous life, she had never seen this kind of silver substance in her mystic meridians. However, now was not the time to think about this. The urgent matter at hand was to suppress her rapidly advancing cultivation as soon as possible. Aunt Master Yang was right. Mystic cultivators had to have a limit when it came to mystic cultivation. They couldn't blindly advance rashly in their cultivation. It was better to stabilize it before advancing. She had broken through from the initial success stage of level 4 mystic cultivator to the phenomenal success stage of level 5 mystic cultivator in one go. Her mystic energy increased explosively without any signs of slowing down. This truly was a bit flustered. After absorbing so much profound energy in one go, his entire profound veins, including his profound domain, could be said to have expanded to the extreme. If this continued, it would be very easy for him to explode and die. Furthermore, if one were to advance too quickly, it might cause one's own realm to become unstable, which would not be beneficial to one's future cultivation. However, she couldn't stop it. The momentum of her advancement was like a ferocious tiger released from its cage, charging all the way up. She was a peak level 5 mystic cultivator. The barrier to level 5 mystic cultivator had been completely broken. She had entered level 6 mystic cultivation and was gradually reaching level 6 mystic cultivation. Xiao Mu was on the verge of tears. She subconsciously called out, "What about Qiuqiu? I can't stop the momentum of my advancement." Qiuqiu. This damn tree disappeared again? The sapling Qiuqiu was silent for a while and couldn't help but ask, "Master, what are you worried about? I've advanced so quickly and absorbed so much profound energy into my body. Will I explode on the spot?" Qiuqiu. "Master, are you an idiot? Why do you always have some weird thoughts in your head? If you don't want to absorb the profound energy, just tell me. I can absorb all the profound energy. This much profound energy is enough for me to grow 2 leaves. Besides, why do you think your realm advanced by leaps and bounds? Is it the stimulation of the profound energy in the outside world? It's not. It's actually because you absorbed 2 drops of sacred water. Little Arbor. Dot. Chapter 279. Then what do I do now? Hurry and help me stop. She didn't want to advance anymore. This advancement speed was so terrifying. It didn't feel like a normal human. Xiao Mu's heart was about to leap out of her chest as she watched herself break through the initial success and phenomenal success stages of level 6 mystic cultivation and charge toward the peak of level 6 mystic cultivation. Master, are you really not going to consider directly breaking through the barrier of level 7 mystic cultivation? Qiuqiu tempted the little fellow. Let me tell you, if you break through to level 7 mystic cultivation, Qiuqiu can immediately help you assimilate the paradise. Hurry. Absorb the remaining holy water essence. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I don't want it anymore. Wah, wah, wah. What was this cheating tree still nagging for? It's precisely because I want Master to break through to level 7 mystic cultivation that I held back from snatching those 2 drops of holy water away. Qiuqiu muttered inwardly and immediately wrapped Xiao Mu's mystic domain with its branches before burying it deep into its roots again. The remaining bit of holy water essence was completely absorbed by the sapling's roots. This process was extremely fast. 2 tender green leaves even immediately grew on the sapling's bare branches. Arbor immediately felt her entire body lighten as all the mystic energy that was swarming into her body was instantly drawn away by the sapling. She heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly focused her mind and calmed her breathing as she sorted out the mystic energy flowing in her meridians and mystic meridians bit by bit. The child discovered in astonishment that the mystic domain that originally led to the depths of her dantian was naturally just a mystic meridian. But now, this mystic meridian actually had a fork. The fork was as thin as a line, but there was indeed a wisp of mystic energy slowly swimming within and extending to the mystic domain. Although it was very strange, the little fellow didn't have time to think about it in detail. She instantly charged from the initial success stage of level 4 mystic cultivation to the phenomenal success stage of level 6 mystic cultivation. She was only a small step away from breaking through to the peak of level 6 mystic cultivation. This leap was truly too large. Her heart was still thumping wildly in her chest. Her heart was in a mess, and she almost couldn't calm down immediately. Arbor tried her best to restrain her racing heartbeat and barely managed to calm her mind. She restrained her aura and completely blocked her 5 senses, forcing herself into a completely blank world. Little by little, he stabilized all the restless, profound energy in his body, suppressing the rapid advancement of his realm. This sorting process proceeded very slowly, and it wasn't long before Xiao Mu was completely immersed in it, completely ignoring everything else. At the same time, the jubilant sapling was increasing its strength to extract the rich mystic energy from the outside world. When it was delighted to find that one soft and tender leaf after another was slowly emerging from the branches, the speed of its absorption suddenly increased. Profound energy, I'll give you as much as you can. Qiuqiu howled in the depths of its heart. In the outside world, the dense mystic energy on the holy water sect's second peak was endlessly flowing toward the cultivation room. Arbor was in a very strange manner. After that, The surging mystic energy on the second peak was far from enough to satisfy the bandit Chochio. The entire sect's 3 peaks, including the sect master's main peak, were all alarmed. Everyone ran out of the house as they stared in shock at the sky above, at that ball of profound energy that was so dense that it was almost turning gray. So much profound energy was moving towards one place at full speed, completely without a trace of reluctance. Holy shit! All the mystic energy was drawn to the second peak? What the hell is the second peak doing? Originally, the mystic energy on the sect's 3 peaks and the main peak was evenly distributed. Today, this kind of balance was completely broken. Chapter 280. On the Holy Water Sect's main peak, a row of simple bamboo buildings sat in the depths of a light green bamboo forest under a blanket of white snow. Even in this world of ice and snow, it was still verdant and lush. We still have enough food to eat for 3 months. Morong Sun lazily leaned against the brocade couch and expressionlessly stared at the sect master sitting across from her. The Holy Water Sect's sect master was about 60 years old. Her appearance was unremarkable, and she wore an extremely simple blue and white robe. She had a benevolent countenance and a smile on her lips. She held a large palm leaf fan that maids used to light fires. It could be said that if this elderly lady was thrown into a crowd of people, she definitely wouldn't make a splash. She was completely an ordinary, elderly lady from a farming family. The sect master's hand that was holding the palm leaf fan paused, and she sighed. Ah, that can't be helped. The world is difficult right now, and normal people are living worse off than us. How about this, Morong? Pass down the order that the entire sect's 800 disciples will have 1 meal every 3 days. Change it to 1 meal every 5 days. The sect master extended 5 fingers and waved them. Morong Sun's lips fiercely twitched. She just knew this unreliable sect master would come up with rotten ideas all day long. The most important thing for us cultivators is to temper our body's toughness. Hunger tolerance is also a part of cultivation. The sect master said seriously, I haven't eaten a grain of rice for 10 days already, so I feel my body is very light and my condition is excellent. Rumble. The sect master's stomach made a very discordant noise. Morong Sun nearly burst out in laughter and looked at the elderly lady with ridicule. The sect master also felt embarrassed and coughed lightly. Master isn't hungry. As long as I enter closed-door cultivation right away, I'll enter a selfless state. At that time, I naturally won't feel hungry. Morong Sun stood up and opened the bamboo door. She shouted outside, Someone, prepare food for the sect master. Wicked disciple. The sect master angrily put down the palm leaf fan in her hand. Actually, it's more practical to go to a nearby city and accept some missions when appropriate. Morong Sun turned around and leaned against the door, helplessly looking at the sect master. Mystic cultivators also needed to eat, so they couldn't completely abstain from eating. However, they could block out all the exhaustion in their body after a single closed-door cultivation, so they were more resistant to hunger than normal people. No, no, no. The sect master waved his hand. Children, work hard and cultivate diligently every day. How can we tie them down with some mundane affairs? Here it comes again. This naive sect leader. Morong Sun speechlessly rolled her eyes. Master, entering the world is also a type of experience. You cultivate your heart and train your reflexes. In a battle, the ability to react is an indispensable part of one's strength. Master, the world has become a battlefield right now. Neither you nor I can protect ourselves. Morong Sun gazed deeply at the sect master. She could understand the sect leader's actions, but she did not approve of it. The sect master wanted to protect all the disciples, but this kind of blind protection was actually a way to weaken the strength of the sect. Flower buds that did not grow up in bloody battles. How could they experience the storms of the world in the future? The old lady was silent for a long time before she suddenly raised her head and asked, Sun, when will you take over the position of sect master? Bang! Morong Sun slammed the bamboo door shut, and it swayed so much that it nearly fell off. A disciple holding a bowl of porridge walked toward them and dazedly stood there, looking back at Antmaster Morong's fleeing figure. Wicked disciple. The sect master was so angry that she jumped up and slapped the brocade couch. At this time, the disciple carrying the porridge looked up at the sky and exclaimed in shock, "Sect master, quickly come and look." The sect master angrily ran out of the bamboo building, her gaze fixed on the ball of mystic energy that was so dense it was turning gray in the sky, and she immediately revealed a shocked expression. "You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.